Chapter 1. The Sky Dragon's Awakening. The year 1514 on the Grand Line calendar found an unnamed deserted island basking under the scorching sun. On its rocky shore, a handsome young man with short black hair clutched a peculiar fruit in his trembling hands. The fruit's emerald surface bore strange infinity-shaped patterns that seemed to pulse with otherworldly energy. "This isn't a devil fruit, this isn't a devil fruit," he muttered like a prayer. "This is just Australian lobster, just Australian lobster." After steeling his resolve, Kai took a decisive bite. Delicious. Ah! The taste hit him like a freight train. It was as if someone had stuffed a dragon fruit with rotten herring and fermented fish, creating a flavor that assaulted every taste bud and rejected his very soul. Kai doubled over, retching violently, but he forced himself to continue eating. Bite after agonizing bite, he consumed the entire devil fruit. This was his only shot at defying fate and changing his destiny in this brutal world. Nobody understood the terror of the pirate world better than him. Here, the strong could cleave mountains and split seas with casual strikes. Even the aftershocks of their battles could obliterate entire islands. The new world swarmed with monsters beyond imagination, and even the supposedly safer four seas crawled with vicious pirates and tyrannical nobles who squeezed the life out of ordinary people. And then there were the celestial dragons, whose sacred flames could rain down from the heavens without warning. Kai's luck had been cosmically terrible. He'd been playing Pokémon Emerald when somehow he'd transmigrated, but instead of landing in the relatively peaceful Pokémon world, he'd ended up in One Piece. While Pokémon had its world-ending crises, it was still fundamentally a harmonious utopia compared to this nightmare. "At least fate hasn't completely abandoned me," Kai whispered, clenching his fists as he felt new power surging through his body. The moment he'd swallowed the devil fruit, he'd known exactly what he'd gained. Zoan-type dragon fruit, mythical beast form, Rayquaza. "Thank God I caught Rayquaza before transmigrating and not some Caterpie or Magikarp," he muttered, shuddering at the thought of being stuck with String Shot or Splash as his only abilities. Shaking off those terrifying alternate timelines, Kai turned toward the island's forest to search for food. But before he could take 3 steps, a thunderous crash erupted behind him. Spinning around, he watched dust clouds billow skyward, revealing a massive crater dozens of meters long. At its center lay a perfectly human-shaped impact hole. The scene struck him as eerily familiar. A massive hand suddenly thrust up from the crater's center, gripping the ground. A dark shadow rocketed upward and landed directly in front of Kai with earth-shaking force. The figure towered 7 to 8 meters tall, a mountain of muscle and menace. Wild black hair whipped in the wind, 2 fearsome horns jutted from his skull, and dragon scale tattoos covered his left arm. His muscular torso was draped in a cape, making him look like a demon god given flesh. "Wororororo. Didn't die again, damn it." That laugh alone was enough for Kai to identify his unexpected visitor, the bungee jumping enthusiast without ropes, the irredeemable battle maniac, the undisputed mentor of countless pirates, and one of the 4 emperors, Kaido of the beasts. Kaido's gaze fell upon Kai like the weight of a mountain. In that instant, Kai felt as though he'd been dropped into an Arctic Ocean. His muscles locked up, his body no longer feeling like his own, as if a savage beast had marked him as prey. Damn it. Just one look was enough to paralyze him. What was the point of coming to this world if he'd remained this pathetic? Such cowardice was absolutely unacceptable. Kai forced his fists to clench, suppressing the terror clawing at his heart and meeting Kaido's gaze without flinching. Interesting. Kaido's mouth curved into an amused smirk. What about this then? A tremendous aura exploded from within the Emperor, crashing toward Kai like an invisible tsunami. His head immediately felt heavy, consciousness threatening to slip away entirely. Should he give up? This was Kaido, the world's strongest creature. Losing to him wouldn't be shameful, so why endure this suffering? But something deep inside him rebelled against that thought. Why did surrendering feel so wrong? Gritting his teeth and clinging to his last shred of consciousness, Kai roared, "Don't look down on me. It's just conqueror's hockey." Boom. An invisible force exploded from Kai's mind, bursting from his body and colliding head-on with Kaido's conqueror's hockey. Simultaneously, brilliant emerald light erupted around him. Oh, a devil fruit user. Kaido leaned casually on his kanabo, watching Kai's transformation with genuine curiosity. The green light exploded outward, revealing a dragon humanoid figure where Kai had stood. The creature was entirely emerald green and surprisingly slender, with razor-sharp claws on both hands and feet. Yellow infinity symbol markings adorned his body, while rudder-like appendages with crimson edges sprouted from his back. A serpentine tail swished behind him, ending in fins that matched his back appendages. Long, flat horns crowned his head, with smaller matching ones jutting from his chin. A mythical zone. And the qualities of a king. Kaido's eyes lit up with genuine interest. He withdrew his conqueror's haki and slowly raised his kanabo, pointing it directly at Kai. Kid, how about joining my pirate crew? What if I refuse? Kai gasped, still catching his breath from the haki clash. Then I'll send you to hell and let your devil fruit be reborn, Kaido replied with brutal honesty. How refreshingly straightforward. Seems like I don't have much choice. Kai smiled bitterly, appearing to accept his fate. Then suddenly, but if you want me to join, I'll have to test your strength first, you bastard. Dragon Pulse. Kai's jaws parted, and violent, mystical energy surged from deep within his body. The power gathered in his mouth before transforming into a dazzling shockwave that erupted forward with devastating force. Even if joining the beast pirates was inevitable, there was a world of difference between meekly agreeing and being forced to submit after a proper fight. The latter would definitely earn more of Kaido's respect. This conclusion had crystallized in Kai's mind after witnessing how Kaido had treated fighters like Shudenmaru, Kid, and Luffy. Sure enough, seeing Kai's defiance, Kaido wasn't angered but delighted, bursting into booming laughter. Wororororo. Kid, that's right. Even when you're afraid, you must charge forward bravely. Kaido made no attempt to dodge or defend, standing his ground without even activating armament haki. The massive shockwave struck his towering frame without obstruction. Boom. The deafening explosion tore through the air as dense smoke and dust swallowed the area completely. Kai's expression remained grim. He harbored no illusions about this attack causing any real damage to Kaido. This wasn't the Pokemon world, where Dragon-type moves dealt double damage to Dragon types. Without hesitation, he slashed his claws rapidly through the air. Air slash. Countless cutting attacks formed from highly compressed air tore through the smoke like a torrential downpour, all aimed at Kaido's position. Not bad, kid. Kaido's wild laughter suddenly rang out from within the smoke. Whoosh. The pitch-black kanabo cut through the air in a horizontal sweep. Bang. 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 Every single air blade shattered to pieces from that one devastating swing. Is that all? Don't you have any stronger moves? Kaido casually shouldered his weapon, his eyes gleaming with unfulfilled battle lust. Despite taking the Dragon Pulse head-on, Kaido stood completely unharmed except for a few superficial scratches on his chest. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 5 comments 0 vote. Chapter 2. Joining the Beast Pirates. It's not over yet. Kai smiled slightly, raising both claws high above his head. As Rayquaza, the god of the sky, how could he not demonstrate his mastery over the sky itself? Rumble, rumble. The previously clear sky suddenly darkened as storm clouds gathered with supernatural speed. Under Kai's will, countless dark clouds interwove, merged, and compressed until they completely blotted out the sun, plunging the world into an ominous twilight that made hearts race with primal fear. Only the occasional flash of lightning deep within the storm clouds tore through the darkness, proclaiming that a world-ending calamity was brewing above. Even Kaido, the battle-hardened emperor, caught the scent of genuine danger in the air. This was getting more and more interesting. That's enough. Sensing he'd reached his limit, Kai suddenly clenched both hands into fists. Thunder. Crack. In an instant, the storm clouds boiled with violent energy. A bolt of black lightning so dense it appeared almost solid crashed down like divine judgment, threatening to pierce straight through the earth itself. Kaido's eyes flashed with brilliant intensity. Using his future sight, his expression grew serious for the first time as he twisted his body and shifted into his hybrid form. Kid, I acknowledge you. This is the disaster I've been waiting for. Kaido laughed with pure joy as both armament and conqueror's haki coated his massive kanabo in crackling energy. Thunder Bagua. Instead of retreating, Kaido charged forward to meet the apocalyptic lightning head-on, boldly swinging his weapon upward. The kanabo, when faced with the heavenly lightning pillar over 20 meters in diameter, looked as thin as a pencil in a giant's hand. Yet even so, the descending thunder could not advance even an inch under Kaido's fierce resistance. Boom. The pitch-black haki clashed against the lightning in a continuous explosion that shook the very foundations of the island. The ear-splitting sounds continued endlessly while scattered shockwaves hitting the ground triggered a chain of devastating explosions. Even Kai, the attack's creator, was forced to retreat to a safe distance. Reaching higher ground, Kai shielded his eyes and admired his handiwork with professional appreciation. Worthy of a technique with such devastating power. Even with his current limitations, it could match a Yonko's strike. If he could refine it further and create spherical lightning constructs like a certain god from Skypia, he might truly be able to destroy nations with a single attack. The only drawback was the charging time. This worked perfectly against Kaido, who enjoyed tanking powerful attacks, but against a more agile opponent, the hit rate would be questionable at best. At the battlefield's center, Kaido bore the unimaginable pressure of directly confronting Heaven's wrath. However, this pressure was like the finest liquor, making every drop of blood in his body boil and every muscle fiber roar with excitement. His arms swelled even further as the ground beneath his feet collapsed into a massive crater, unable to withstand the enormous counterforce. Yet with even greater power, Kaido gradually began pushing back against the stalemate. Mere lightning. Get back to the sky where you belong. Kaido's eyes blazed as he erupted with maximum power. With the wild motion of a baseball batter going for the fences, he actually knocked the black lightning back along its original trajectory. Rumble. Rumble. The reversed lightning exploded within the storm clouds, and the resulting shockwaves tore the cloud layer apart entirely. Long mist, blazing sunlight once again bathed the earth in golden warmth. Exhilarating. Kaido lowered his kanabo and laughed heartily before turning his satisfied gaze back to Kai. I'm liking you more and more. Although there had been an element of trickery involved, achieving this level of destruction with devil fruit abilities alone demonstrated the kid's incredible potential. Kai transformed back to his human form and spread his arms in surrender. Let's call it here, Kaido-san. I'm willing to join the beast pirates. Wororororo, cunning brat. Kaido chuckled, having thoroughly enjoyed his warm-up exercise. He didn't mind the calculated approach one bit. Creating a flame cloud, he positioned it before Kai. Climb on, kid, and come with me. The title of the Beast Pirates' third All-Star will be yours to claim. But Kai shook his head. His body twisted and expanded, instantly transforming into an emerald dragon dozens of meters in length. Kaido's eyes lit up with genuine interest. So this is your beast form. You can fly under your own power. As an azure dragon himself, Kaido didn't possess natural flight and relied on grasping flame clouds to soar through the skies. Kaido also shifted into his 100-meter azure dragon form and took to the heavens. Above the clouds, two massive divine dragons crossed the sky. Anyone witnessing this scene would surely believe that gods had descended to earth. However, compared to Kaido's serpentine form that stretched hundreds of meters and appeared capable of bearing mountains on its back, Kai's Rayquaza form seemed almost delicate by comparison. During their journey toward the new world, the two dragons conversed. Rayquaza, the god of the sky. Never heard of it, and it's not mentioned in any devil fruit encyclopedia either. Perhaps too few people have consumed it, or maybe I'm the first, Kai offered vaguely, unable to provide a better explanation. Kaido didn't seem particularly concerned with this mystery. The seas were full of strange and inexplicable abilities. Instead, he inquired about Kai's lightning technique. He could summon lightning himself, but compressing and condensing it to that degree, in his extensive experience, probably only the Rumble fruit could achieve such effects. Kai saw no reason to hide his capabilities and spoke frankly. My ability primarily involves weather manipulation. I can control wind, fire, thunder, shockwaves. I can even summon meteors from space. The simple word, control, shouldn't be underestimated. Just in terms of commanding wind and rain, Kai's mastery far exceeded Kaido's abilities. Sounds somewhat similar to my powers, yet far more comprehensive. At least I can't manipulate weather at will. I can only summon basic storm clouds. Each ability has its strengths, Kai replied diplomatically. Your flame cloud technique is incredibly versatile. This wasn't mere flattery. Flame clouds were genuinely extraordinary, useful not only for flight but containing tremendous destructive potential. In the original timeline, Kaido had used flame clouds to physically lift and relocate entire islands, something impossible through raw strength alone. Kaido-san, Kai smoothly changed the subject, could you teach me hockey training methods? Of course. Though you're the first person brave enough to ask me to be your instructor. Kaido seemed to activate some internal switch and burst into booming laughter. That's because you haven't experienced what I have, Kai thought wryly. Otherwise, you'd know exactly how famous teacher Kaido's reputation really is. You're the pirate world's #1 educator, 1 beating for basic armament hockey, 2 beatings for advanced conqueror's coding, and 3 beatings for devil fruit awakening. As evening approached, the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant shades of gold and crimson. The vast clouds were transformed into a canvas of molten metal, creating a breathtaking vista that stretched to the horizon. Having never witnessed such natural beauty before, Kai found himself completely mesmerized. So beautiful. Beautiful. Kid, what kind of joke is that? This scenery is common as dirt on the Grand Line, Kaido scoffed with typical romanticism. Kai's soaring mood crashed instantly to earth. If he weren't completely outclassed in combat, Kai would have seriously considered punching the insensitive brute. Could someone please explain what common as dirt meant in this context? With that interruption, Kai's appetite for scenic appreciation evaporated completely. The remainder of their journey passed in relative silence, focused purely on covering distance. After flying through the night, the dawn's first light revealed an island surrounded by towering walls on all sides appearing on the distant horizon. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 3. Trial by Fire. Compared to other islands scattered across the Grand Line, Wano Country's most distinctive feature was the towering walls built along all 4 sides of its borders. 8 centuries of accumulated rainfall had created a vast inland sea within those walls, and somewhere beneath those dark waters lay the prize that even Crocodile had desperately sought, the ancient weapon Pluton. Kaido had no intention of landing in Wano Country. He led Kai onward through the sky, and before long, a small island shaped like a massive skull emerged from the horizon. Onigashima had arrived. The 2 divine dragons flew in formation through the skull's gaping eye sockets into the island's interior. Inside the hollow cranium stood a sprawling complex of Japanese-style buildings that served as Kaido and the Beast Pirate's primary stronghold. Kaido descended onto the plaza before the main structure and shifted back to his human form. Pirates who had already spotted their boss's return came swarming from every direction. Boss Kaido is back. Time for a celebration feast. The excited shouts filled the air as Kai stood beside Kaido, observing the crew members whose faces radiated fanatical worship for their captain. The Beast Pirates clearly possessed strong internal cohesion and loyalty. Simultaneously, Kai's dramatic entrance caught the attention of every pirate present. Wasn't that kid the giant dragon who flew in with Boss Kaido? That's right. I saw him transform with my own eyes. Looks like Boss Kaido recruited himself an incredible mythical zone user. HMPH, not necessarily. Yeah, look how pale and scrawny he is. Obviously all show and no substance. How could he compare to these battle-tested muscles? Kai paid no mind to the mixture of curious and disdainful stares directed his way. Instead, he focused his attention on 2 imposing figures emerging from the main building. Both stood approximately 6 meters tall and radiated dangerous authority. The first possessed a perfectly proportioned, powerful build with black wings sprouting from his back and a long sword at his waist. His entire body was wrapped in black leather clothing and pants, while his head was concealed beneath a helmet and mask, giving him the appearance of some dark enforcer. Most striking were the flames that burned perpetually behind his head. King the Wildfire. The second figure was rotund and imposing, wearing sunglasses with a golden ponytail cascading behind his head. He was dressed in black and white striped overalls, and his left arm had been replaced with a mechanical prosthetic that gleamed with metallic menace. Queen the Plague. Besides these 2 prominent all-stars, Kai spotted several other, old acquaintances, scattered throughout the crowd. Jack, who stood even taller than Kaido himself, wore ivory decorations and sported one ponytail with 2 braids framing his face. Sasaki, distinctive in his red mask helmet with a cigarette perpetually dangling from his lips. Black Maria, dressed as an elegant geisha and gazing at Kaido with obvious adoration in her eyes. And finally, a pair of horned siblings wearing masks, the sister named Ulti and her brother Page 1. Perfect timing, king, queen. Kaido's grin stretched wide as he slammed his massive hand against Kai's back, shoving him directly into everyone's line of sight. This kid is called Kai. He's the 3rd all-star I've chosen to join our ranks. His casual announcement sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd like a stone thrown into still water. Whether they harbored ambitions for an all-star position or not, every pirate's gaze locked onto Kai with intense scrutiny. Damn. You bastard Kaido, couldn't you give me some preparation time? Just announcing it so carelessly like that. I don't even know proper hockey techniques yet. Kai felt genuinely troubled. If he'd mastered all 3 types of hockey, he would have possessed the confidence to secure his position as an all-star through sheer skill. But as things stood, this felt like being thrown to the wolves without any armor. Before Kai could voice any objections, Jack, who had long coveted an all-star position, stepped forward aggressively and shouted, "I refuse. Boss Kaido, I demand the right to duel him. Let the winner claim the all-star title. The Beast Pirates respect strength above all else. To become an all-star, you must prove yourself by defeating us. That's right. We need to test his mettle in battle." The crowd's energy erupted instantly, voices rising in unanimous agreement. Kaido appeared thoroughly satisfied with his subordinate's reaction. He turned to study Kai expectantly. "What do you think about that arrangement? No matter how many sheep gather together, they're still just meals for tigers and leopards," Kai replied with deliberate arrogance, his smile sharp as a blade. In the Beast Pirates, playing the humble underdog was the most useless approach imaginable. The creed here was crystal clear: only the strong could dominate everything and everyone. Wororororo. Little ones, let's have ourselves a magnificent battle. Kaido laughed with pure satisfaction, raising his kanabo and pointing toward the skull's exterior. Yeah. The pirates roared their approval, fanaticism written across every face. The chance to make their mark had finally arrived. Outside Onagashima's skull fortress, hundreds of pirates with aspirations for an all-star position formed a complete circle around Kai. Their eyes burned with ambition and desperate hunger for advancement. Kaido, Queen, and King positioned themselves at the skull's eye sockets, settling in to enjoy the entertainment unfolding below. To them, this battle that carried the determination and dreams of hundreds of pirates was merely a brief diversion from their otherwise monotonous existence. Kaido-san, do you believe Kai can emerge victorious? King crossed his arms, his voice completely devoid of emotion or concern. That sort of outcome doesn't particularly matter either way. Kaido waved his hand dismissively. If he dies, it simply means he was too weak to deserve the position. He only required a subordinate capable of bearing the name and responsibilities of an all-star. As for the specific identity of that individual, he remained completely indifferent. In the plaza below, Kai's body rippled and expanded, instantly transforming into his emerald dragon form as he launched himself into the air above the gathered crowd. When it came to group battles of this scale, beast form was definitely the optimal choice for maximum durability and impact. Really now, there are simply too many of you to count. Kai's voice boomed down from above like rolling thunder, each word carrying otherworldly authority. The moment he finished speaking, storm clouds gathered in the sky with supernatural speed. Lightning crackled between the dark layers while cold winds began swirling ominously between heaven and earth, transforming the battlefield's very atmosphere. Oh, he can actually manipulate weather patterns. Queen pushed up his sunglasses, his small eyes sparkling with genuine scientific curiosity and wonder. King also abandoned his initial contempt, not because he suddenly considered Kai particularly formidable in combat, but because this ability possessed enormous strategic value for their operations. Whether for massive construction projects or naval warfare scenarios, such a crew member would provide invaluable support capabilities. With just a few seconds of consideration, King could envision dozens of practical applications for Kai's powers. Kaido-san, we should ensure his survival. King's voice dropped to a low, firm tone that carried absolute conviction. Wororororo. That kid might not necessarily lose this confrontation. Kaido grabbed the enormous sake gourd from his waist and drank deeply, clear liquid flowing freely down the corners of his mouth as he observed the developing chaos. Below in the plaza, the pirates witnessing the dramatic weather transformation began exchanging uncertain and suspicious glances. Creating such an impressive atmospheric display. They had only witnessed this level of environmental manipulation from Boss Kaido himself. Could it possibly be that this newcomer possessed similar capabilities? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. A burly middle-legged pirate brandished his sword overhead and bellowed, how could anyone match Boss Kaido's strength? Boss Kaido is completely invincible. That's exactly right. The surrounding pirates responded with unanimous agreement and fervor. It's nothing but empty bluffing. Take this. The middle-legged pirate coiled his legs like springs, launched himself through the air, and brought his blade down in a vicious slash aimed directly at Kai's serpentine body. Dozens of other pirates followed his example, raising various weapons and charging forward to attack the hovering dragon. Clang, clang, clang. The continuous sounds of metal striking against something far harder rang out across the battlefield like a discordant symphony. The bloodthirsty grins plastered across every pirate's face froze completely in that critical moment. The scene of torn flesh and flowing blood they had confidently expected simply refused to materialize before their eyes. Instead, the enormous recoil from their weapons left their hands numb and bleeding from split skin, while only the faintest white scratches appeared on Kai's dragon hide. Even those superficial marks were fading at a visibly rapid pace. Have you had quite enough fun yet? A low, oppressive voice descended from above like the rumble of distant thunder, carrying an undercurrent of barely contained power and menace. Kai's massive dragon head slowly lowered until it hung directly over the crowd, his ancient eyes indifferently sweeping across the faces now twisted with shock, horror, and dawning realization of their complete miscalculation. Now then, it's my turn to play. Twister. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Chapter 4. First Battle with Jack. Kai's declaration ignited the battlefield like a spark to gunpowder. In an instant, countless lightning bolts crashed down from the storm clouds above. Simultaneously, what had appeared to be gentle breezes suddenly twisted and shrieked, transforming into dozens of tornadoes composed entirely of razor-sharp wind blades. The two forces intertwined and merged into a catastrophic storm of death. Ah! Screams so agonized they no longer sounded human flooded the entire battlefield in waves of pure terror. The air filled with nauseating burnt flesh and the pungent metallic stench of blood that spread like a plague across the combat zone. After the storm's merciless rampage, the entire field appeared as though it had been baptized by a natural disaster of biblical proportions. Only now did King and Queen, observing from their elevated position, truly understand why Kaido had bestowed upon Kai the codename, Calamity. Of the originally dense crowd of hundreds of pirates, only a handful of figures could barely remain standing among the devastation. Jack, Sasaki, Huho, and several others appeared largely unharmed, though their irregular breathing patterns clearly indicated they had expended considerable stamina and effort resisting the elemental onslaught. The crowd-clearing effect is quite satisfactory. Kai observed his handiwork with evident satisfaction, the corners of his mouth curving upward in approval. HMPH, a bunch of worthless idiots, Huho sneered disdainfully at the pirates sprawled unconscious across the ground. He had deliberately held back earlier, allowing this cannon fodder to serve as unwitting test subjects for the newcomers' capabilities. The experiment had succeeded, but the results were deeply alarming. Powerful defensive abilities, combined with the capacity to manipulate weather phenomena for devastating large-scale attacks. Huhu's calculating gaze swept over the massive divine dragon hovering above, his expression mixing envy with genuine wariness. Mythical zone users were indeed all monsters in human skin. But still, there remained opportunities for victory. However, he would let the others make the first moves. Huhu's predatory gaze shifted like a venomous serpent toward Jack, Ulti, Sasaki, and the other survivors still standing nearby. The pirates who had attacked initially were merely expendable extras. These remaining individuals represented his true competition for advancement. Coincidentally, Sasaki and the others harbored identical calculations, their eyes flickering with the same tactical considerations. Before fully understanding Kai's complete arsenal of abilities, none dared make the opening move, fearing they would simply be paving the way for someone else's victory. For several tense moments, the scene remained frozen in cautious anticipation. HMPH, a bunch of cowards. Jack, wielding two massive curved swords, became the first to shatter this suffocating silence. He released a contemptuous sneer, his eyes blazing with pure fighting spirit as his already imposing frame swelled and transformed into his mammoth hybrid form. His thick legs stomped the ground with tremendous force, shattering the surface beneath his feet as Jack launched himself upward like a living cannonball. Break apart for me. Midair, Jack's arms became a blur of motion. Two giant curved blades wrapped in pitch-black armament hockey, accompanied by the ear-splitting shriek of air being torn asunder, slashed frantically at the same point on Kai's serpentine body. Pain. Such excruciating pain. Kai's pupils contracted sharply as he felt his supposedly impenetrable scales being methodically chiseled through, layer by agonizing layer. Truly worthy of being the beast pirate's prodigious young talent. At just 18 years old, Jack possessed Fishman bloodline combined with his ancient zone mammoth fruit powers. His overall combat strength likely ranked second only to King and Queen at this stage. If not for Kai's sudden appearance, Jack would undoubtedly have claimed an all-star position before much longer. Can't keep absorbing punishment like this. With lightning-fast tactical analysis, Kai's massive dragon form began contracting rapidly, instantly switching to his more agile hybrid form that was better suited for close-quarters combat. Beast form excelled at crowd control, but in single combat it became a massive, vulnerable target. Perfect timing. Seeing Kai actively reduce his size, Jack's eyes lit up with predatory satisfaction as he completed his transformation into a mammoth giant covered in coarse fur, sporting tusks like gleaming spears. He charged directly toward Kai's position and raised his thick, muscular trunk high overhead. It's over. Trunk hammer. The pitch-black trunk, infused with concentrated armament haki, cut through the air and slammed down toward Kai with devastating intent. This powerful strike compressed the surrounding atmosphere so violently it dragged a visible white shockwave in its wake. Boom. That devastating blow, condensed with monstrous physical strength and advanced haki, landed squarely on Kai just as he finished his transformation sequence. Unimaginable impact force erupted instantly. Kai felt as though he'd been struck head-on by a marine battleship traveling at full speed. His entire body flew backward like a kite with severed strings, becoming a blurred streak shooting through the air at frightening velocity. Crash. A thunderous impact echoed across the battlefield as Kai's body slammed hard into a rocky cliff face. Smoke and debris filled the air, completely obscuring his figure from view. At the skull's observation point, Queen shook his head dismissively. That kid's finished. Jack's signature strike isn't something ordinary fighters can survive. King's voice carried cold amusement. Idiot, use your observation haki and look properly before making such assumptions. Who are you calling an idiot, you torture-obsessed pervert? Even if I subtracted 100 points from my IQ, I'd still be considered a certified genius. Having his intellectual pride wounded, Queen launched into his familiar litany of self-proclaimed achievements and titles. Phrases like, Mads, most brilliant scientist, second only to Vegapunk, the absolute pinnacle of cybernetic enhancement, the undisputed master of biochemical warfare, and dozens of similar boasts flowed freely. Below the Skull Fortress, tensions continued escalating among the remaining combatants. Damn that bastard Jack for getting there first. A petite girl with distinctive blue and pink streaked hair widened her eyes and cursed with genuine fury. I haven't even settled the score with him for injuring my little brother yet. During the earlier Twister assault, Page 1, being both the youngest and weakest of the group, had suffered serious injuries in the elemental barrage. If he weren't an ancient zone Spinosaurus form user with enhanced durability, he would likely be unconscious among the fallen pirates scattered across the battlefield. The purple-haired youth wearing a distinctive black and white mask tugged gently at Ulti's sleeve. Sister, please forget about it. Don't start unnecessary conflicts with Jakaniki right now. This wasn't motivated by fear of damaging relationships. Fighting among Beast Pirates members was extremely common, and as long as there were no cowardly sneak attacks involved, Kaido genuinely didn't care about internal disputes. Jack was particularly enthusiastic about such confrontations. The real problem was simple. His sister wasn't Jack's equal in combat capability. Even combining both siblings' strength, they would struggle significantly against the mammoth user. Why actively seek out unnecessary suffering? Little Pepe, your big sister will listen to your advice. Ulti wrapped her arms around Page 1's neck, rubbing her cheek affectionately yet somewhat roughly against his face in a display of sibling bonding. Ow, ow. Please be gentler. Page 1 was on the verge of tears from his sister's aggressive affection. Since that situation is settled, then our next opponents are each other, correct? Huho smiled with predatory anticipation. Sasaki, how about we form a temporary alliance to eliminate them first? Excellent strategy. Sasaki, slightly overweight with distinctive twin horns protruding from his head, voiced no objections to the proposal. He surveyed the area with obvious greed, viewing the sibling duo as prime targets for elimination. Ha! You want to fight us? Ulti instantly switched from devoted sister mode to her characteristic explosive fury. As an ancient zone Pachycephalosaurus form user, she immediately transformed into her hybrid state and shouted her defiant challenge. I'll use my headbutts to smash you worthless bastards straight into the ground. Page 1 followed his sister's example, entering his Spinosaurus hybrid form and standing shoulder to shoulder with Ulti, both siblings glaring with murderous intent at Sasaki and Huho. The brother and sister had survived and thrived in the Beast Pirates' brutal survival of the fittest environment by relying on desperate determination and unbreakable unity. However, the four combatants caught up in their escalating internal conflict failed to notice that Jack, despite having his back turned toward them, had remained in a state of high alert and readiness. Crash. Rubble tumbled and scattered as a dragon claw suddenly shot out from the destruction, gripping the cliff face with crushing force. Cough. That was quite a substantial hit. Kai's figure slowly emerged from the dust-filled ruins, shaking his somewhat dizzy head as pebbles and debris scattered down around him. One hand pressed against the rock wall for support while the other covered his chest, where Jack's devastating trunk strike had left its mark alongside the earlier sword wounds that were still visible. Most surprisingly, after only a few minutes had passed, those vicious blade wounds had already stopped bleeding entirely. The chest pain was receding rapidly like a tide pulling back from shore. Kai looked up toward the distance where Jack waited and grinned with genuine excitement and anticipation. Jack, now it's my turn to show you what real power looks like. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 5. The All-Star Battle concludes. Kai's form rippled and expanded as he shifted back to his beast form, the massive divine dragon ascending into the heavens with powerful wingbeats. Although he desperately wanted to engage Jack in honorable hand-to-hand combat, their earlier collision had forced him to confront harsh reality. Without mastery of hockey techniques and lacking proper combat training, he would definitely prove no match for Jack, Huho, or any of the other seasoned fighters in close-quarters battle. If that was his limitation, then he would simply have to rely on his ultimate techniques. Huh, that guy's actually still breathing. Ulti momentarily forgot about the brewing infighting, craning her neck to watch Kai climbing higher and higher into the sky. Huho sensed immediate danger. Although he couldn't predict exactly what Kai was planning, he certainly didn't believe the dragon was preparing to flee like a coward. Quickly. Attack together with me. Huho drew his blade and aimed it skyward, continuously launching flying slashes in desperate attempts to intercept the ascending threat. Sasaki immediately followed suit, his own weapon singing through the air. But their frantic movements were obviously far too slow. Within moments, Kai had completely vanished from everyone's field of vision, disappearing into the vast blue above. At the skull's observation windows, King spoke with characteristic calm. Kaido-san, do you require my intervention? Kaido waved his massive hand dismissively, his voice booming like thunder across the battlefield. Absolutely not. A coward who flees from combat doesn't deserve to serve as my all-star. High above the battlefield, Kai also noticed the desperate slashing attacks rising from the ground below but paid them no attention whatsoever. Compared to Jack and the others, his overwhelming advantage was simple: he possessed true flight capability. Looking across the entire pirate world, experts with genuine aerial combat abilities were extraordinarily rare. Bell had once claimed that only 5 confirmed flying abilities exist in the world. Whether that statement held complete accuracy or not, it perfectly illustrated the incredible scarcity of flight-based powers. Among the 4 emperors, only Kaido and Charlotte Linlin could achieve true flight, and among the marine admirals, only Kizaru possessed such mobility. The development of Geppo techniques only granted experts brief aerial maneuvering capability. Sustained pursuit at these altitudes was absolutely impossible for ground-based fighters. Within minutes, Kai had reached the sea of clouds far above the island. This altitude should suffice perfectly. Kai surveyed his surroundings and slowly closed his eyes in deep concentration. An invisible, otherworldly wave suddenly radiated outward from Kai's position, expanding toward the vast depths of space with irresistible force. The next moment, his eyes snapped open with predatory intensity. Let me provide you with a proper appetizer to sample first. Draco Meteor. Dozens of massive meteors that had been silently orbiting in the void were precisely located and forcibly dragged earthward by that invisible cosmic influence. The meteors pierced through the atmosphere, creating intense friction with the air that produced blazing infernos, transforming them into enormous shooting stars trailing spectacular fiery tails. On Onigashima below, Kaido, who had been steadily pouring alcohol down his throat, froze mid-gulp. He suddenly looked skyward and immediately bellowed a curse, that damn brat. Does he intend to obliterate Onigashima entirely? Before the shocked queen and king could voice their questions, Kaido barked urgent orders. King. Queen. Coordinate your attacks with mine immediately. Be extremely careful not to affect the battlefield below. Just as King prepared to ask for clarification, a crisis warning from deep within his soul made him instinctively look upward. Big brother, what are you discussing? Ah. Meteors. Queen's shock was so profound his jaw nearly dislocated entirely, his eyeballs bulging grotesquely behind his sunglasses until the lenses cracked and shattered from the strain. The 4 combatants standing on the battlefield below also detected the sky's ominous transformation. Little Pepe, run for your life. Big sis, we need to escape. The Ulti siblings spoke in perfect unison, their usual bravado replaced by genuine terror. Is this truly an opponent we can realistically defeat? Sasaki murmured in disbelief, his corpulent frame trembling beyond his control. No way, he can summon meteors as well. Huho stared at the apocalyptic scene unfolding overhead and suddenly laughed with bitter resignation. Those dozen massive shooting stars of varying sizes blazed with tremendous fury, painting the entire sky a brilliant crimson. They tore through the heavens mercilessly, crashing downward as if determined to annihilate everything on Onagashima's surface. Damn it. Kai, who do you think I am? Do you believe I'd cower before mere falling rocks? Of the 4 people present, only Jack remained high-spirited and eager for battle. He instantly entered his hybrid form, both massive curved swords wrapped in armament haki until they gleamed pitch-black with concentrated power. Facing the world-ending meteor barrage, Jack refused to retreat. Instead, he advanced boldly to meet the meteor crashing toward his position with a defiant sword swing. Simultaneously, the trio of Kaido, King, and Queen could no longer remain passive observers and moved to intercept the celestial bombardment. They cared nothing for the cannon fodder pirates' survival, but this Onagashima represented over 10 years of careful construction and planning. It couldn't be destroyed in a single moment of recklessness. Black coffee. Imperial flaming wings. Thunder Bagua. 3 explosive battle cries rang out almost simultaneously. The seemingly heaven and earth destroying meteor shower, under the combined assault of 3 top-tier powerhouses, mostly shattered and disintegrated like fragile glass spheres, transforming into a rain of burning stone fragments that scattered harmlessly downward. However, 3 meteors with perfect trajectories toward the battlefield were tacitly allowed to slip through their defensive barrage. This was, after all, the official all-star competition between Kai and Jack's faction. Facing the incoming celestial projectiles, Huho, Sasaki, and the Ulti siblings showed almost no hesitation whatsoever, decisively choosing immediate battlefield evacuation. They burst forward at their maximum possible speeds, becoming 4 panicked streaks as they fled headlong toward the combat zone's perimeter without a single backward glance. Boom. 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 3 meteors slammed with devastating force into the battlefield where the quartet had been standing moments before, their deafening explosive thunder seeming to tear listeners' eardrums apart. The enormous reactive force made the solid earth ripple and crack like ocean waves during a typhoon. Terrifying shockwaves carried scorching air currents and deadly debris, instantly sweeping outward in all directions with unstoppable momentum. Smoke and pulverized stone shot skyward, completely blocking out the sun's light. The entire central battlefield area transformed instantly into a burning purgatory of ruins, filled with massive craters and scalding rock fragments. Ah! Jack roared as he struggled to push away the burning boulder pinning him to the ground. His current condition was absolutely miserable. Both hands bled freely from split skin, his massive body was covered with severe burn marks, and his labored breathing sounded like a damaged bellows fighting for each breath. Jack was preparing to rest briefly before resuming his battle with Kai. Roar. Thunder-like dragon roars suddenly echoed from the heavens above. High at 10,000 meters altitude, Kai breathed concentrated fire, wrapping the flames around his entire serpentine form. A miniaturized version of a fire dragon torch technique was complete. Flame charge. Kai transformed into a blazing comet descending from heaven itself, moving so fast he left a burning vacuum trail in his wake. Damn it. Jack's pupils contracted to pinpoints. He instinctively attempted to rise and evade, but his stamina consumption had been far too severe. His battered body could no longer support long-distance evasive maneuvers. With no possible retreat available, then he would meet this challenge head-on in a satisfying collision. Jack shifted into his most durable beast form, his mammoth head completely covered with concentrated armament haki to resist the incoming catastrophic impact. Bang! The dragon skull and elephant head collided without any sophisticated techniques, in the most primitive and savage manner conceivable. Time seemed to freeze completely in that critical moment. Immediately afterward, a massive fireball exploded like a volcanic eruption across the battlefield. A flaming mushroom cloud rose majestically from the devastated ground. The terrifying destructive force acted directly upon the Earth itself. With Jack's position as the epicenter, a massive crater dozens of meters in diameter and several meters deep formed instantaneously, leaving a permanent scar on Onagashima's surface. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 6. Calamity Kai. Looking at the devastated ruins spread before them, Ulti swallowed hard, her usual bravado completely absent. This is way too ridiculous. She felt overwhelmingly grateful that she and her brother had managed to escape the blast zone in time. I really don't know where Boss Kaido discovered such a monster, she muttered, still processing what they'd witnessed. Page 1 suddenly realized a terrifying fact that made his blood run cold. Kai seems to not have used any hockey techniques at all until now. Huho froze completely, carefully reviewing the entire battle in his mind. It was indeed exactly as Page 1 had observed. His burning ambition to compete for an all-star position died completely in that moment. At least until his strength improved dramatically, he had no intention of pursuing that goal. Boss Kaido and the others are heading to the battlefield. We should go take a look as well, Sasaki reminded them from the side. The other three voiced no objections. They desperately wanted to know the final outcome of this unprecedented confrontation. Approaching the crater's edge, smoke and debris still filled the air like a thick curtain. But for those who had mastered observation hockey, this visual obstruction posed no real obstacle to their perception. Wororororo. Worthy of the all-star I personally chose. Kaido's mouth curved into a satisfied grin as he laughed with genuine pride. The others remained silent, quietly observing the crater's center with intense focus. Thud, thud, thud. Heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed across the battlefield. Kai emerged from the smoke carrying the unconscious Jack, who was spitting up blood continuously, his massive frame looking surprisingly fragile in defeat. Well then, Kaido-san, mission accomplished. Kai carefully laid Jack down on the scorched ground with unexpected gentleness. Wororororo. Excellently done, kid. Kaido laughed as he approached Kai's position, raised his massive right hand high, and declared in a voice that carried across the entire island, "Listen up, you maggots. From this moment forward, Kai is officially an all-star of the Beast Pirates." The pirate crew members who had gathered to witness the spectacle immediately erupted in thunderous cheers. All-star! All-star! Calamity! Calamity! The chants echoed off Onagashima's rocky walls like a victory anthem. Kai grinned widely and raised both hands high above his head, fully embracing his moment of hard-earned glory. As for the pirates who had perished in the battle's devastating aftermath, who cared about them? They could only blame their rotten luck and insufficient strength. Otherwise, why had they fallen while Jack, Huho, and the others survived? One general's success is built upon 10,000 bones. Nothing exemplified this harsh truth better than today's events. Kai silently vowed in his heart that in this brutal life, he would always be the one left standing when the dust settled. The following day arrived with deceptive calm. In Onagashima's medical department, the atmosphere buzzed with unusual energy. Because they employed Queen, an expert in biochemical weapons and human body modification, the Beast Pirates maintained surprisingly high medical standards for a pirate crew. Lord Kai. The female nurses quickly bowed in respectful greeting upon spotting Kai's approach. After yesterday's spectacular all-star competition battle, word of Kai's miraculous performance had spread like wildfire throughout Onagashima and was already reaching Wano Country's settlements. It was safe to say that everyone on Onagashima now knew exactly who he was and what he'd accomplished. Kai accepted the attention gracefully, nodding with calm dignity and offering a polite smile. Good morning, everyone. Though not particularly enthusiastic in his response, within this savage and crude Beast Pirates crew, Kai's refined mannerism stood out like a phoenix among crows. His gentlemanly attitude directly won over the nurses' collective affection. Lord Kai is so incredibly handsome. One bold nurse exclaimed openly. A particularly outgoing female nurse, emboldened by Kai's kind demeanor, approached him directly and asked in her sweetest voice, "Lord Kai, is there anything special I can do for you today?" Kai smoothly stepped back to maintain appropriate distance and asked politely, "I came to visit Jack. Could you tell me which room he's recovering in?" "Lord Kai, Lord Jack is under my direct care. Please allow me to show you the way." A petite female nurse was first to raise her hand enthusiastically. "Then I'll gratefully accept your assistance," Kai decided immediately, hoping to avoid further complications. "Back off, you shameless hussies. Stop trying to monopolize Lord Kai's attention." The petite nurse arrogantly pushed away her competitors but then clung to Kai's arm herself, leading him intimately toward Jack's recovery room. "Here we are, Lord Kai. I won't disturb your visit. Just call if you need absolutely anything at all." After completing her guide duties, the perceptive nurse voluntarily exited the room, giving Kai the privacy he required. Perhaps as special treatment befitting the strong, the spacious medical room housed only Jack within its sterile walls. At this moment, Jack lay bandaged like an ancient mummy on an enormous hospital bed. Tubes were inserted throughout his massive frame, with various colored medicinal fluids flowing continuously into his battered system. Yesterday's catastrophic battle had left Jack with severe burns covering his entire body and complete fractures throughout his skeletal structure. In his previous life, such injuries would have been instantly fatal with no hope of survival. But in the pirate world, while this level of trauma wasn't exactly minor, it certainly wasn't life-threatening either. Kai couldn't help but marvel at Jack's absolutely tenacious vitality and incredible durability. Truly worthy of being the infamous Drought King, a man who could consecutively provoke Admiral Fujitora, former Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Chief Staff Officer Suru, and even the ancient elephant Zunisha, yet somehow survive every encounter. It's you. Jack, hearing the commotion of footsteps, slowly opened his eyes with genuine surprise coloring his hoarse tone. He genuinely didn't believe he and Kai shared any particular friendship worth visiting over. We're colleagues now, after all, and we just fought an intense battle. Isn't it perfectly normal for me to check on your recovery? Kai smiled warmly and presented a carefully arranged basket of fresh bananas. I heard from Kingston that you absolutely love eating bananas, so I specially brought an entire basket for your enjoyment. The beast pirates apparently lacked any tradition of bringing gifts when visiting the sick. Jack's bedside area was completely barren of personal items or well wishes. Jack remained ominously silent, studying the offering. Kai assumed Jack felt embarrassed about accepting his thoughtful kindness and quickly reassured him, no need to thank me excessively. This is simply what any decent colleague should do. Unexpectedly, Jack's composure completely shattered as he grumbled with barely contained fury, you bastard. Do you seriously think I can eat anything in this pathetic condition? Placing his absolute favorite fruit directly at his bedside where he could see but not consume it was nothing short of psychological warfare. This was pure torture. Absolutely diabolical. Oh, my sincere apologies. Kai scratched his head with genuine embarrassment, finally understanding why Jack's bedside remained so empty. He quickly relocated the banana basket to a spot where Jack couldn't see the tempting fruit. Kai smiled with renewed enthusiasm. You focus on recovering well. Next time, let's have another proper fight, but the close combat kind. Throughout the entire Beast Pirates organization, Jack represented the most suitable sparring partner for hand-to-hand combat development. Most of Queen's considerable strength derived from advanced technology rather than pure physical prowess. His actual hand-to-hand combat abilities remained relatively average. King stayed incredibly busy, managing virtually everything within the Beast Pirates from top to bottom. The fact that he could spare even a few days to teach basic hockey techniques was already remarkably generous. Yes, although Kai had technically become Kaido's personal disciple, King bore responsibility for fundamental hockey instruction. According to Kaido's characteristically blunt assessment, I don't have time to play nursemaid with you. Come find me to learn the advanced techniques after you've properly mastered the basic foundations. Kai's words directly struck Jack's most sensitive nerve, his eyes flashing with brilliant anticipation. It's absolutely settled then. As a dedicated battle maniac, Jack had been genuinely worried about finding suitable opponents recently. Huho and the other Tobarapo members made decent adversaries in theory, but they consistently avoided direct confrontations with him. How utterly ridiculous and cowardly. Without intense battles to test oneself, how could anyone properly digest and apply the results of daily training regimens? Kai seized this opportune moment to inquire about the current political situation in Wano Country and broader Onigashima operations. Since Kai had earned Boss Kaido's personal acknowledgement and respect, Jack answered every question with complete honesty. The Beast Pirates' current organizational structure remained relatively straightforward and easy to understand. Besides Governor Kaido and the three All-Stars, those possessing exceptional combat strength earned the title of Tobarapo, while the remaining pirates maintained equal status regardless of individual capabilities. Regarding Wano Country's delicate political situation, Jack's expression darkened with obvious contempt. The current shogun is a pathetic weakling named Kurozumi Orochi, supported by his subordinates called the Orochi Anawabanshu. Most irritating is that Kurozumi Orochi never seems to understand his proper position in our arrangement. If Boss Kaido weren't too lazy to directly rule Wano Country himself, and if King Ganiki had sufficient energy to manage governmental affairs, we would have eliminated that snake long ago. Kai nodded thoughtfully, recognizing a potential opportunity when he heard one. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 7. Hockey Training. After bidding farewell to Jack, Kai departed from the medical department with purposeful strides. On Onagashima's rocky seaside, a tall figure stood motionless on the jagged stones, silently gazing at the endless expanse of ocean stretching toward the horizon. Kai approached respectfully and bowed slightly. My apologies, Kingson. I'm running late. King turned to regard Kai with his characteristic stoic expression, his tone remaining perfectly calm. There are still 3 minutes until our scheduled appointment. You're not late at all. How is Jack's condition? He already received the medical reports. Kai's eyes narrowed slightly, uncertain whether King was subtly warning him that every movement within the beast pirates remained under constant surveillance. He responded with measured calm. The injuries are severe, but not life-threatening. The attending nurse mentioned that if his recovery proceeds smoothly, he should be able to leave his bed within 3 days. King nodded once, fixing his penetrating gaze directly into Kai's eyes with absolutely no emotion in his voice. I don't particularly care what personal schemes you might be harboring, but if you perform even one action that brings harm to Kaido-san or the Beast Pirates organization, I will hunt you relentlessly to the very ends of the earth. Kai simply shrugged without offering any response. King didn't require his acknowledgement anyway. Hockey represents a power hidden within every person's body, fundamentally divided into 3 distinct categories: armament hockey, observation hockey, and conqueror's hockey. After King completed his comprehensive explanation of hockey fundamentals, he smoothly changed topics. The most effective method to awaken dormant hockey abilities is through intense, life-threatening combat. Kai nodded with thoughtful understanding. The optimal training approach in the pirate world was indeed confronting powerful opponents in direct battle. Fortunately, the beast pirates possessed no shortage of formidable fighters willing to serve as training partners. Come forward. Don't rely on your devil fruit abilities. Attack me with maximum force. King beckoned challengingly to Kai. Then I absolutely won't hold back. A brilliant flash of excitement ignited in Kai's eyes. Whoosh. Kai became a blur of motion as he materialized directly in front of King, swinging his fist toward the Lunarian's chest with devastating intent. Impressive speed, King acknowledged with a slight nod, remaining completely motionless and allowing Kai's punch to connect without even activating basic hockey defenses. So incredibly hard. This was Kai's immediate reaction upon impact with King's natural armor. His powerful strike felt exactly like punching a solid steel plate. King displayed absolutely no reaction while Kai's knuckles ached from the jarring contact. Truly worthy of the legendary Lunarian race. Even in his completely normal state, his defensive capabilities proved virtually unbreakable. Such tremendous raw strength. While Kai marveled at King's durability, the All-Star also experienced a flash of genuine surprise. He could clearly observe that the man before him possessed no formal combat training whatsoever. His punching angles and force application techniques were fundamentally incorrect. Even so, that untrained strike had nearly forced him to take a defensive step backward. Surprise aside, the necessary instruction couldn't be delayed or avoided. King's right fist became coated with concentrated armament hockey, the pitch-black appendage cutting through the air with an ominous whooshing sound as it struck toward Kai without any reservation or mercy. Bang! Kai's chest felt as though it had been struck by a massive sledgehammer. His entire body launched backward dozens of meters, carving a long, deep furrow in the sandy beach. Hiss! Kai clutched his throbbing chest, his face contorting with pain as he struggled to his feet. That punch really packed a serious wallop. Only hurt. Nothing more. Is his defensive capability also reaching monster-level parameters? King's eyes narrowed with calculating interest. That particular punch had been calibrated to keep Kai incapacitated for at least 30 seconds. Unexpectedly, Kai simply stood up as though nothing significant had occurred, his mobility appearing completely unaffected by the devastating blow. I clearly underestimated your capabilities. King's mouth curved into an approving smile. Teaching you proper techniques might not prove a complete waste of time after all. What exactly does that ominous statement mean? Kai instinctively sensed approaching trouble on the horizon. For the next phase, I'm going to apply considerably more force. The moment King finished his warning, he flashed forward and materialized directly in front of Kai. Hey, wait a. Before Kai could complete his protest, a pitch-black fist expanded rapidly in his field of vision. Bang! Kai was launched backward yet again. Hey! Haven't you ever heard the classic saying, don't strike the face during fights because hitting the face damages one's dignity? Kai wiped fresh blood from the corner of his mouth, gingerly rubbed his swelling face, and voiced his indignant protest. Of course. King flashed directly in front of Kai again and delivered another devastating punch. I haven't heard that ridiculous saying. Bang. Kai found himself airborne once more. This time, King refrained from continuing his relentless pursuit, instead standing calmly in place and beckoning mockingly to Kai. Aren't you planning to fight back at some point? P2E. Kai spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva and laughed with genuine enthusiasm. Then let's continue this dance. Let me give you fair warning though, I'm almost keeping pace with your movement speed. You said it yourself. I'm accelerating the training pace. King smiled with cold satisfaction. Aura aura aura. Bang. 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 For the entire grueling morning session, Kai maintained his pattern of charging forward and subsequently falling on the path of continued charging. This represents the final punch of today's session. King threw his fist with calculated precision. Wait, I think I actually saw that coming. Kai suddenly experienced a moment of pure epiphany, crossing both arms defensively to block at his midsection. Bang! As fist collided with crossed arms, Kai was sent flying several meters through the air. But this time marked a crucial difference. He was no longer simply absorbing punishment without response. Yes. Excellent. I successfully blocked it. Kai performed an impressive carp stand, behaving exactly like a dedicated scholar who had just passed the prestigious imperial examinations. However, before he could celebrate for more than 2 seconds, King's next punch arrived with ruthless efficiency. Kai was sent flying backward again. Here's a valuable free lesson for future reference. Never allow yourself to become distracted during active combat. King slowly withdrew his fist, spread his magnificent wings, and soared gracefully into the sky. We'll continue this training regimen the day after tomorrow. Playing dirty tactics, huh? Kai rubbed his aching stomach and struggled determinedly to his feet. This morning's intensive consumption had been absolutely enormous. His natural recovery speed could barely maintain pace with the accumulated damage. Flying back to Onagashima's main complex, Kai's first destination was directly to the mess hall. Before he could even voice his requirements, the diligent culinary team had already wheeled out a towering pile of food reaching the height of a full-grown person. Lord Kai, please enjoy this feast to your heart's content. Kai felt no need for politeness and immediately began his voracious consumption. Storm inhalation mode. Fully activated. Meter-wide bowls of steaming ramen, bone-in meat cuts half a person's height, steaks larger than human faces, and countless perfectly roasted chickens and ducks disappeared rapidly. Massive quantities of food were systematically consumed by Kai, transforming into essential nutrients to properly nourish his battered body. Only after consuming approximately 3 times his body weight in various foods did Kai finally feel genuinely satisfied. If this weren't the extraordinary pirate world, Kai would seriously worry about developing into a legendary glutton. But here, possessing the ability to consume vast quantities was synonymous with possessing tremendous strength. Burp. After downing another full glass of quality sherry to quench his persistent thirst, Kai released a light, satisfied burp and finally ceased his eating marathon. Thank you sincerely for this excellent meal. Kai nodded appreciatively to the dedicated chef team serving nearby. The distinguished mustachioed head chef trembled with obvious emotion. Lord Kai is far too kind and considerate. In the future, if you require anything whatsoever, we can arrange delivery directly to your personal quarters. You needn't visit the communal cafeteria personally. Kai nodded to demonstrate his understanding, then turned and departed with purposeful strides. Fully satisfied and with no pressing obligations, Kai planned to return to his private quarters for a luxurious afternoon nap. Speaking of accommodations, the Beast Pirates' treatment of all-star members was genuinely exceptional. Successful recruitment came with spacious private housing, and fearing that important members couldn't manage domestic responsibilities effectively, they even assigned dedicated personal maids. Even for satisfying other recreational needs, members could freely visit the entertainment quarters professionally managed by Black Maria. Walking along the familiar corridors, Kai suddenly noticed a distinctly sneaky figure lurking near his room's entrance. The mysterious visitor stood impressively tall, a full head taller than Kai himself, wearing a traditional Hanya mask with gradient white hair flowing gracefully. Handcuffs adorned both wrists, and the figure was dressed in a pristine white sleeveless fitted kimono with an enormous Shimenawa rope tied around the waist and a flowing red skirt below. Wait, isn't this? Kai tilted his head with growing confusion and recognition. Yamato. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 8. Yamato. Who's calling my name? The mysterious woman suddenly spun around, and the moment her eyes fell upon Kai, she rushed forward with thundering footsteps and pulled him into a crushing embrace. Shish. Don't make a sound. MMPH. 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 Kai struggled desperately within what felt like a snowy white ocean of fabric and flesh. Yamato's physical strength was absolutely terrifying. Without resorting to violent measures, Kai couldn't hope to break free from her iron grip. Hey, hey, hey. Don't move around. I'm not a dangerous person. Yamato, attempting stealth infiltration tactics for the first time in her life, was nearly in tears as she hugged Kai even tighter. Rather than trying to silence him effectively, it seemed more like she was accidentally attempting to suffocate him to death. After what felt like an eternity, seeing that Kai had finally stopped his frantic struggling, Yamato slowly loosened her death grip. Huff, ha, huff, ha. Kai gasped desperately for the precious air he'd been denied and asked with genuine curiosity, why exactly are you here? In his memories of the original timeline, wasn't Yamato supposed to be trapped in an endless cycle of escaping confinement, challenging Kaido directly, failing spectacularly, and being thrown back into her dungeon cell? Yamato answered without any hesitation or thought. I came specifically to find the mysterious powerful warrior who appeared yesterday. I want to invite him to join my rebellion team so we can challenge Kaido together. You're looking for me. What virtue or ability could I possibly possess to catch your attention like this? Kai felt genuinely puzzled by this development. Who could have possibly told Yamato that he harbored any antagonism toward Kaido? The refreshingly honest child Yamato explained her reasoning. I witnessed that incredible fighter summon meteors from space to attack Kaido and all his subordinates directly. He must obviously be Kaido's sworn enemy. What absolutely magical thought processes you have there. Kai decided to test her further. So then, do you know what this mysterious person looks like? Yamato obediently shook her head in the negative. What about his name or identity? Yamato shook her head again, looking somewhat embarrassed. Kai's mouth twitched with barely suppressed amusement. You don't know anything concrete about him. How exactly are you planning to find this person? Yamato responded as though stating the most obvious fact in the world. I fought against all the powerful individuals here at some point, so I know them personally. Naturally, anyone I don't recognize must be the exact person I'm searching for. Yamato placed both hands confidently on her hips with an expression that clearly proclaimed, I'm incredibly clever and have figured everything out. Kai shook his head with resigned amusement, sighed deeply, opened his room door, and gestured for Yamato to follow him inside. Lord Kai, a young woman dressed as a professional maid greeted him respectfully. When she spotted Yamato standing beside Kai, she appeared startled and quickly offered a deeper bow. Young Master Yamato, good afternoon. Minami, you can take your leave for now, Kai instructed politely. The dutiful maid obeyed immediately and departed with her head respectfully lowered. Please, sit down and make yourself comfortable. Would you like some quality sake? Kai offered hospitably. That sounds wonderful, Yamato accepted readily, sitting down with easy familiarity and casually removing the Hanya mask from her face to reveal breathtakingly beautiful features that seemed delicate enough to shatter at a touch. While carefully pouring sake for his unexpected guest, Kai feigned complete ignorance and asked with calculated curiosity, why do you harbor such a burning desire to defeat Kaido-san? Because I am Odin. I want to liberate Wano Country completely and force it to open its borders to the outside world. Yamato responded with reflexive enthusiasm and conviction. Kazuki Odin. Kai's eyes narrowed with sharp interest. Honestly, he hadn't expected to encounter Yamato so early in his tenure, especially with her actively seeking him out for recruitment purposes. But when heaven presents opportunities and you fail to seize them, you'll inevitably suffer the consequences of that hesitation. A faster timeline suited his purposes perfectly well. Since he had already committed to joining the Beast Pirates, he naturally couldn't allow such a tremendously powerful fighting force to slip through his fingers. Who could possibly refuse a beautiful female companion who possessed a pure heart, genuine kindness, and overwhelming combat strength? However, to successfully recruit Yamato to his cause, the toxic Kazuki Odin obsession poisoning her mind needed to be thoroughly extracted and eliminated. Let that cleansing process begin this very moment. That's absolutely correct. Speaking of her idol Kazuki Odin, Yamato's eyes began sparkling with brilliant little stars as she continued with mounting excitement. Kazuki Odin was the most outstanding and noble samurai I've ever encountered. He was unconventional and completely unrestrained in his approach, yet remained fundamentally kind-hearted and impossibly brave in every situation. Yamato launched into an endless monologue about all the Kazuki Oden stories that various samurai had instilled in her impressionable young mind, along with her own deeply personal experiences and observations. At the tender age of 8, Yamato had been forced to witness Oden's public execution, the supposedly legendary one-hour boiling pot punishment. She had begun worshipping him as a perfect hero ever since that traumatic day. But when she enthusiastically shared her newfound dream with her father Kaido, she was met with his characteristically violent beatings and immediate imprisonment as punishment. Speaking of these painful memories, Yamato angrily shook the heavy seastone shackles adorning her wrists. To prevent me from ever escaping Onagashima's borders, that absolute bastard Kaido attached these explosive bomb shackles to my body. I honestly don't know if that Kaido guy is lying to me or telling the truth. Who in their right mind would seriously consider blowing up their own flesh and blood child? Yamato's tone became deeply dejected and melancholic. But I simply don't dare gamble with my life on the possibility. Kai remained thoughtfully silent, processing this information. He knew with absolute certainty that these bomb shackles were completely real and functional. This cruel reality was also the primary reason Yamato had completely severed all emotional ties with Kaido in the original timeline. Honestly speaking, Yamato's current psychological condition was largely Kaido's direct responsibility and fault. What kind of family education philosophy relied purely on savage beatings? Beating a child until they were black and blue apparently wasn't sufficient. Solitary imprisonment had to be added to the punishment regimen as well. Under such harsh treatment, Yamato's mental conditioning had only grown deeper and more entrenched over time. At this moment, Yamato's emotional story continued flowing freely. Having discovered a truly loyal and patient audience, the isolated girl became increasingly excited and animated, even revealing that she had discovered Oden's personal navigation diary hidden away in the Kuri region. Therefore, as the spiritual successor to Kazuki Oden, I absolutely must defeat Kaido in honorable combat. Yamato raised both arms in a powerful declaration, then immediately lowered her head with obvious dejection. But my current power level remains far from sufficient for such a monumental task. I'm not even close to being a match for King in single combat. Kai listened with seemingly infinite patience and then posed a crucial question. I understand your motivation completely, but what does any of this have to do with you becoming Kazuki Oden specifically? What? How could it possibly have nothing to do with it? Yamato's bright, expressive eyes widened even further with shock and confusion. Having lived in complete social isolation without any genuine friends, Yamato had unconsciously begun regarding Kai, who patiently listened to her innermost thoughts and feelings, as her first and only true friend. She desperately hoped that Kai would approve of and validate her cherished ideals. Kai spread his hands in a gesture of logical reasoning. Let me summarize your stated ideals clearly. Your ultimate goal is simply to make Wano Country open its borders to international trade and ensure that the people of Wano can live significantly better lives, correct? Yamato's mind raced frantically to process this reframing. Is that truly what I mean? It certainly seems like it when put that way. But what fundamental conflict does this noble goal have with your need to become Kazuki Oden? Kai spoke with complete directness and honesty. You don't need to become Kazuki Oden to achieve these aims. You are yourself, the unique and irreplaceable Yamato. Yamato can accomplish these exact same things through her own strength and methods. Unique Yamato. Yamato appeared absolutely stunned by this revolutionary concept. No one in her entire life had ever spoken such empowering words to her. Even the 3 loyal samurai she had encountered during childhood had only praised her stated ideal of becoming Kazuki Oden's spiritual successor. No person in this world must become someone else to achieve greatness. Kai continued his philosophical argument with building intensity. Moreover, a mere figure like Kazuki Oden isn't worth your imitation or devotion at all. Allow me to tell you about the real Kazuki Oden that I know from historical records. Yamato nodded eagerly, gazing at Kai with rapt attention and obvious expectation. Kazuki Oden was completely unscrupulous and morally bankrupt from his earliest childhood. At 6 years old, he began frequenting brothels regularly. At 8, he started drinking heavily and engaging in violent brawls with other children. At 14, he caused a devastating great flood by recklessly modifying river courses during a drought emergency. At 15, he threatened and extorted temple abbots before secluding himself in sacred temples, abducting innocent women every single night to build his personal harem. Kai sneered openly, making no attempt to hide his profound disgust for Odin's character. When a fundamentally good person commits one wrong action, they face universal condemnation from society. When an evil person puts down their weapons and claims redemption, they somehow receive universal admiration and forgiveness. Kazuki Odin's earlier evil deeds might possibly be attributed to youthful ignorance and poor judgment, but his systematic abduction of civilian women represented an ironclad historical fact that couldn't be disputed. And the official narrative's edition claiming that all these women were completely free and willingly chose to serve Kazuki Odin was even more disgusting and insulting to basic intelligence. If every civilian woman had truly willingly followed Kazuki Odin of their own free will, why would he need to forcibly abduct them against their wishes? When the women's families and husbands came desperately searching for their missing loved ones, Kazuki Odin not only refused to acknowledge his obvious wrongs but also fought them violently, clearly demonstrating that he had absolutely no intention of repenting for his crimes at that time. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 9. Convincing Yamato. Yamato found herself completely speechless in the face of Kai's devastating revelations. She had always known that Odin was a reformed prodigal son who had turned his life around, but she had never imagined that his past could be so utterly horrific. What you're telling me is completely different from what's recorded in his personal diary. Yamato furrowed her delicate brows, struggling to accept this harsh new reality. Kai scoffed dismissively. What decent person writes an honest diary? Who would actually record their true thoughts and darkest secrets in something so easily discovered? If personal diaries could be trusted as historical fact, even the most corrupt politicians would appear as worried leaders genuinely caring for their country and people. Before Yamato could mount any defense, Kai pressed his attack relentlessly. Even after Kazuki Odin supposedly turned over a new leaf, he remained incredibly stupid and gullible. Despite possessing tremendous physical strength and political authority, he allowed himself to be completely deceived by Kurozumi Orochi and danced naked in public for 5 entire years. He did that to protect the innocent people of Wano Country. Yamato's face flushed bright red as she desperately defended her fallen idol. Then what exactly did he protect? Kai retorted with crushing logic. Did fewer people in Wano Country die under his watch, or did their daily lives actually improve in any measurable way? He wasted 5 precious years accomplishing absolutely nothing. He personally abandoned a situation that still held a glimmer of genuine hope. Isn't that stupidity of the highest order? Kai sometimes wondered if there was something fundamentally wrong with Wano Country's spiritual energy and decision-making capabilities. Not to mention Kazuki Odin's series of catastrophically poor choices that couldn't have been conceived without suffering a decade of severe brain damage. Even those supposedly loyal retainers serving under him displayed remarkable stupidity in their actions. Back in those days, Shimotsuki Yasui had generously sponsored Kazuki Odin with substantial funding, which was then systematically swindled away by the cunning Kurozumi Orochi. Instead of logically thinking to steal that money back from Kurozumi Orochi directly, those so-called loyal thugs went and robbed their benefactor Shimotsuki Yasui instead, getting caught red-handed in the act. If not for Shimotsuki Yasui's remarkably good temper and unwavering loyalty, not only forgiving their betrayal but also providing them with additional funding and personally teaching them proper etiquette to become respectable samurai, whether the legendary 9 red scabbards would have ever existed would have remained highly questionable. Yamato sat in stunned silence, her lifelong faith quietly crumbling like a house built on sand. The path of becoming Kazuki Odin to achieve Wano Country's liberation suddenly seemed not just impossible but fundamentally flawed from its very conception. She spoke with obvious dejection weighing down her words. Then what should I do instead? I want to resist this oppression, but I simply can't defeat Kaido in combat. Kai dropped his verbal bombshell with perfect timing. The solution is actually quite simple. Apologize sincerely to your father, replace the incompetent Kurozumi Orochi, and become the rightful shogun of Wano Country yourself. Yamato was essentially someone who possessed a treasure mountain of opportunities but remained completely unaware of its value. Kaido had always desperately wanted her to accept the position of Wano Country's shogun, but Yamato had been so thoroughly poisoned by Kazuki Odin's corrupting influence that she'd continuously resisted and opposed him at every turn. Me. Yamato pointed at herself with trembling fingers, shaking her head like a broken rattle. I can't possibly do that. I don't know the first thing about governing an entire country properly. What's so incredibly difficult about governing a country effectively? No matter how badly you might perform, could you possibly be worse than the utterly corrupt Kurozumi Orochi? Kai encouraged her with growing enthusiasm. Think about it carefully. As long as you become shogun, wouldn't every major decision affecting Wano Country fall under your direct authority? As long as you avoid harming the beast pirates' core interests, you can open the country's borders to international trade and dramatically improve the people's daily lives. Your father won't try to stop you from these reforms. If the worst-case scenario occurs, you can always find capable advisors to assist your administration. With Kurozumi Orochi serving as the previous precedent, even if Yamato simply laid back and accomplished nothing whatsoever, the people of Wano Country would still be able to breathe significantly easier. Find someone capable to assist me. Yamato secretly glanced toward Kai, privately thinking that such an arrangement wasn't entirely impossible to consider. Just as she found herself hesitating between options, Kai grasped Yamato's hands firmly and encouraged her with absolutely sincere emotion. Yamato, for the sake of Wano Country's future and its suffering people, make your debut as their shogun. Yamato was already leaning heavily toward accepting Kai's revolutionary suggestion, but significant obstacles remained. But my relationship with father is genuinely terrible right now. Actually, Kaido has always loved you deeply, Kai stated, a fundamental fact that Yamato found completely impossible to believe. How could that possibly be true? He not only beat me bloody but also threw me into solitary confinement and attached these seastone bomb shackles to my body. Yamato appeared utterly incredulous at the suggestion. Then did you actually die from his treatment? Kai posed the counter-question with devastating simplicity. You should understand Kaido's typical attitude toward his genuine enemies. Yamato lowered her head shamefully, unable to formulate any coherent response to that irrefutable logic. Moreover, you openly declared your intention to become Kazuki Odin, so Kaido treated you as both his beloved son and as Odin's successor simultaneously. Isn't that consideration generous enough? Every Beast Pirates member consistently referred to her as young Master Yamato, with obvious respect. Maybe, it seems like I was being somewhat ungrateful. Yamato's beautiful face turned completely red with dawning embarrassment. Had she been fundamentally misunderstanding her father's intentions throughout all these years? Thinking more carefully about their relationship, over all these years of conflict, besides beating her half to death during each confrontation, father hadn't really committed any truly excessive actions against her. I've made my decision. I won't try to become Kazuki Odin anymore. I want to be the unique and irreplaceable Yamato. After her passionate declaration of independence, Yamato immediately deflated like a punctured balloon, grabbing Kai's arm like a drowning person desperately clutching a lifeline. But what should I actually do next? Simple. Just listen carefully to my instructions. Later, in Onagashima's grand banquet hall, Yamato performed a formal dageza toward Kaido, who occupied the main seat of honor. Father, I was completely wrong. I shouldn't have wanted to become Kazuki Odin. I am the daughter of Kaido of the Beasts. I've been confused and misguided all these years. Please find it in your heart to forgive me. Everyone present found themselves absolutely dumbfounded, caught completely off guard by Yamato's sudden emotional assault. Over the past 10 years, they had witnessed countless instances of Yamato being beaten by Kaido until she retained only a single breath of life. That extreme level of domestic violence hadn't managed to turn Yamato around. Had she taken some kind of miraculous medicine today? King secretly glanced toward Kai, who had entered the hall alongside Yamato. Was this your doing? At the main seat, Black Maria, who had been carefully pouring sake for Kaido, forgot to stop the flow, spilling alcohol across the entire table. But Kaido no longer cared about such trivial details. Was this truly still his daughter Yamato, who couldn't be steamed, boiled, or hammered into submission? Kaido pushed his half-drawn kanabo back into his cloak and pressed for confirmation. Say that again, clearly. Father, I know I was wrong, Yamato declared loudly with unmistakable sincerity. Maria, I didn't mishear that, did I? Kaido turned to seek confirmation from his most trusted attendant. No, you heard correctly, Black Maria nodded with obvious amazement. That was excellent news indeed. Kaido immediately burst into his characteristic booming laughter. Wororororo. Today is genuinely a good day for celebration. Spread the word immediately. I'm throwing a grand feast for everyone. Yeah. The entire assembly responded with thunderous enthusiasm. Yamato, stand up immediately. I'll let bygones be bygones regarding all your past mistakes and rebellions. Kaido waved his massive hand with obvious relief and joy. Yes, father. Yamato obediently rose to her feet and, completely ignoring Kai's warning glances, sat down next to him with the satisfied demeanor of a husky that had successfully completed its assigned mission, chest puffed out with unmistakable pride. Kai, I did well, didn't I? He really shouldn't have expected Yamato to keep any secrets whatsoever. Kai sighed with helpless resignation and offered appropriate praise. Pretty good job overall. Oh well, his developing relationship with Yamato would be exposed to scrutiny sooner or later anyway. The specific timing didn't particularly matter in the grand scheme. After all, he hadn't employed any underhanded manipulation methods on Yamato, and he wasn't afraid of Kaido causing problems over the situation. On the contrary, he had done Kaido an enormous favor by resolving this long-standing family conflict. Kai, was Miss Yamato's remarkable transformation influenced by your guidance? King was the first to pose the obvious question with characteristic directness. Kai nodded with calm acknowledgement and selectively described his philosophical conversation with Yamato to the assembled leadership. Yamato's enlightenment today is entirely the result of your years of unwavering dedication and persistence, Kaido-san, Kai concluded diplomatically. Kaido deeply agreed with this assessment. If not for his years of persistent effort, Yamato would have departed for the afterlife long ago. Where would today's victory be possible? As for whether everything Kai described was completely truthful, it didn't particularly matter in the end. The crucial result was that Yamato had apologized sincerely to him, and the Beast Pirates had gained another tremendously powerful fighter for their cause. Just like those former enemies who now served as his loyal subordinates, as long as they remained willing to work faithfully for the Beast Pirates, he welcomed them all with open arms. As long as he maintained his status as a Yonko for even one day, those people wouldn't dare betray him for even one day. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 10. Going to subjugate Kurozumi Orochi. Taking advantage of Kaido's excellent mood, Yamato raised both hands to display her heavy shackles. Father, can you please remove these? Of course. What kind of nonsense is it for my daughter to wear shackles like a common prisoner? Kaido waved his massive hand dismissively with obvious disgust at the sight. Even if Yamato was lying to deceive his trust, it didn't particularly matter. As long as she remained within Wano Country's borders, she couldn't possibly escape from his sphere of influence. Hearing this decisive response, King withdrew a key from his chest and tossed it directly to Kai. The keys to all important prisoners' restraints were kept securely on his person at all times. Kai caught the key smoothly and quickly unlocked Yamato's oppressive shackles with practiced efficiency. Oh, my body feels so incredibly light now. Yamato moved her limbs with obvious delight in newfound freedom. Yamato's 10 years of suffering hadn't been endured in vain. Years of wearing heavy seastone had been equivalent to constant, intensive weight training. Now that the restrictive shackles were finally removed, her physical strength would probably experience a period of rapid and dramatic improvement. King turned to address Kaido directly. Sir, since Miss Yamato has officially returned to the Beast Pirates, should that particular matter be placed on our immediate agenda? Making Yamato the rightful shogun of Wano Country. Kaido pondered the proposal thoughtfully, weighing various political considerations. It wasn't an impossible strategy. That Kurozumi Orochi character was becoming increasingly disobedient and problematic anyway. I've reached my decision. Yamato, you'll replace Kurozumi Orochi as the legitimate shogun of Wano Country. With a casual wave of his enormous hand, Kaido effortlessly decided the ultimate fate of Kurozumi Orochi's entire power structure. Yes, father. Yamato felt absolutely overjoyed by this unexpected development. She hadn't anticipated her father making this momentous decision without her even needing to bring up the subject herself. Just as Kai had predicted, father had always genuinely wanted her to accept the position of Wano Country's shogun. King seized this opportune moment to make an additional suggestion. Let Kai accompany Yamato on this mission. It would provide an excellent chance for him to earn merit and prove his value. He also wanted to observe whether Kai's loyalty to their cause was authentic or merely performance. Kaido considered the proposal and found it strategically sound. He understood his own daughter's nature perfectly. While her combat abilities were certainly respectable, she remained rather naive about political maneuvering. Without a shrewd and capable person at her side to provide guidance, she might genuinely suffer a significant loss. Kai voiced no objections and immediately accepted the assignment with professional composure. The following day arrived with the sun just beginning its ascent over the horizon. Hey, Kai, Get up immediately. We're going to liberate Wano Country. An energetic white-haired tornado burst into Kai's bedroom and yanked off his blanket with characteristic enthusiasm. Yamato, do you genuinely think of yourself as a man? Kai rubbed his disheveled hair with obvious dissatisfaction. Thank goodness he didn't maintain the habit of sleeping naked, or Yamato would have gained quite an eyeful. Yamato shook her head with matter-of-fact directness. It's perfectly okay if it's Kai. Sincerity truly was the ultimate devastating attack. Yamato's direct hit left Kai completely speechless. After completing his morning routine and consuming breakfast, the two officially departed for the flower capital. Oh, so massive. Yamato stared at the divine dragon before her in absolute shock. This marked her first time witnessing Kai's beast form at close range. Climb on. Let's complete this mission quickly. Kai turned his serpentine head back toward her. Yamato leapt up with vigorous energy, landing gracefully on Kai's dragon head. She raised her kanabo and pointed forward with mounting excitement. Divine Dragon, take off. You bastard. Don't give me random nicknames. Kai protested with obvious annoyance. What's the harm in it? Hee hee. Yamato crouched down and patted Kai's head with a mischievous giggle. Kai's flight speed proved remarkably swift. Before long, the pair had arrived above the sprawling flower capital. The flower capital represented Wano Country's most prosperous region and housed the shogun's official residence. At its center stood a magnificent giant cherry blossom tree, and Kurozumi Orochi's imposing castle was also located within this district. Kai's brazen arrival immediately caught the attention of the samurai guards patrolling below. Who goes there? Stop immediately. The samurai stammered as they craned their necks to observe the giant dragon spanning the entire sky. Bring out Kurozumi Orochi. Tell him that Kaido's daughter has come to visit. Kai's voice boomed like rolling thunder across the capital. Kaido's daughter. Didn't Kaido only have a son? When had he acquired a daughter? Though the samurai felt puzzled by this development, they didn't dare act rashly against such an obvious threat. After all, the monster hovering in the sky appeared absolutely terrifying. Brothers, hold your positions. I'll go notify the shogun immediately. One particularly clever samurai shouted this declaration and hurriedly sprinted into Orochi Castle, desperately wishing his parents had blessed him with 2 additional legs for greater speed. Yamato lay sprawled across Kai's head, rolling around with obvious boredom. Kai, why don't we simply charge in directly and finish this? Kai sighed with strategic patience. Do you want to destroy this entire place and then conscript Wano Country's citizens as forced laborers to rebuild? Yamato appeared startled by this possibility and quickly responded, I absolutely wouldn't want that outcome at all. Kai actually harbored another tactical motive. Luring Kurozumi Orochi's group outside to eliminate them would allow the flower capital's citizens to witness Yamato's authority, facilitating the next crucial step of political propaganda. He was genuinely prepared to manage Wano Country with proper administrative competence. This location not only possessed uniquely valuable natural resources like seastone, but also maintained the sea's finest processing technology and craftsmanship. Failing to make optimal use of such advantages would prove criminally wasteful. As for what to do with the surviving Kazuki family members in the future, Kai could only wish them the best of luck in their endeavors. While they chatted casually, a large contingent of samurai poured out from Orochi Castle like an organized military force. Leading this group was a tall man with distinctively narrow eyes and an enormous light blue topknot adorning his head. It was Denjiro, one of the legendary 9 Red Scabbards, who was operating undercover within Kurozumi Orochi's organization using the alias Kiyoshiro. Simultaneously, on the upper levels of Orochi Castle, a group of figures wrapped in black cloth moved with ninja-like agility, leaping onto surrounding rooftops to closely monitor every movement of Kai hovering in the sky. These represented another specialized force under Kurozumi Orochi's command, professional ninjas. Gu-hey-hey-hey. Where is Kaido's daughter? I want to hold a magnificent feast to welcome her properly. A distinctly sleazy male voice rang out across the courtyard. A purple-haired man with short, thick limbs, an oversized head and mouth, and a crown worn at a crooked angle emerged at the top of Orochi Castle, surrounded by an impressive guard formation of loyal samurai. Having maintained cooperative relations with Kaido for over 10 years, Kurozumi Orochi naturally possessed knowledge of Yamato's existence and rebellious reputation. Kai descended gradually to bring Yamato to the same elevation as Kurozumi Orochi for direct confrontation. Kurozumi Orochi, I'm going to knock you flying across this courtyard. Yamato lifted her chin defiantly and placed both hands on her hips, making absolutely no attempt to hide her aggressive intentions. What? Everyone present found themselves stunned, failing to immediately comprehend the implications of this declaration. The onlookers gathered below also appeared thoroughly confused. Had Kaido fallen out with the shogun over some political dispute? Miss Yamato, surely you must be joking with us. Kurozumi Orochi's face darkened considerably with mounting concern. In his heart, he desperately wanted to order his subordinates to tear Yamato to pieces for this insult, but his fear of Kaido's retaliation forced him to maintain an obsequious smile. Perhaps there's been some terrible misunderstanding. Following Kai's carefully prepared instructions word for word, Yamato proclaimed loudly for all to hear, Kurozumi Orochi. During your tenure as shogun, you have systematically exploited the people of Wano Country, leaving them destitute and filled with justified resentment. My father, Guardian King Kaido, has repeatedly admonished you without any positive effect. He has now decided that from this day forward, your position as shogun is officially revoked. Kurozumi Orochi could hardly believe what his ears were registering. Kaido, have you no shame whatsoever? Repeatedly admonished me. When had Kaido ever admonished him about anything other than demanding increased efforts to oppress the population and force them to mine more seastone while manufacturing additional weapons? Now he'd completely reversed course and pushed all the blame onto his loyal partner. All he'd wanted was a larger share in weapons and seastone export profits. If Kaido disagreed with those terms, they could have negotiated like civilized partners. Was it truly necessary to directly cause trouble and forcibly remove his position? Damn it all. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 11. The battle begins. Was Yamato's rhetoric genuine? Completely fabricated from start to finish? Any rational person wouldn't believe for a moment that Kaido was someone who genuinely cared about ordinary people's welfare. But this was Wano Country, a land steeped in tradition and honor. Kai had conducted thorough research on the local culture. The people here possessed an almost naive faith in redemption narratives, particularly the prodigal son returns storyline that resonated deeply with their cultural values. Once Yamato secured the position of shogun, Kai planned to systematically pin every injustice and atrocity on Kurozumi Orochi's regime. At the top of Orochi Castle, tension crackled through the air like electricity. That treacherous bastard Kaido. I'll never forgive this betrayal. Kurozumi Orochi gnashed his teeth with such fury that his jaw ached, directly ordering with venomous rage, attack immediately. Chop these 2 insolent bastards into pieces. I'll make Kaido regret this decision for the rest of his miserable life. A tall, bald man with distinctively elongated earlobes and an unnaturally elongated skull quietly stepped forward to offer counsel. Shogun Orochi, this course of action might not be strategically wise. If Kaido truly intended to move against us with serious intent, why would he send merely 2 individuals? Fukurokuju, didn't you clearly hear my direct order? Kurozumi Orochi's sinister gaze fixed upon him like a venomous serpent preparing to strike, his voice dripping with menacing emphasis. I am the shogun of this country. As you command, Shogun Orochi. Fukurokuju dared not voice further objections, silently praying in his heart that Yamato and her companion were acting purely on their own initiative, leaving some slim possibility for future negotiations. Well then, it appears negotiations have completely broken down. Time to prepare for direct assault. Observing this hostile development, Kai laughed with genuine amusement rather than concern. I choose you for this battle. Go forth, Yamato. Ha 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 ha. Finally, I get to fight again after so long. Yamato's eyes ignited with pure excitement as she instantly transformed into her mythical Zone Okuchi no Makami hybrid form, leaping down from Kai's dragon head with graceful power. Kurozumi Orochi, prepare to be knocked flying. Namuji Hyoga. Her massive kanabo, wrapped in bone-chilling freezing air that crystallized the surrounding atmosphere, crashed down with devastating intent toward Kurozumi Orochi's exposed head. Protect me immediately. Witnessing Yamato's fierce approach, the previously imperious Kurozumi Orochi was instantly terrified out of his wits, his limbs flailing comically in panic. Don't panic, Shogun. Fukurokuju blocked Orochi's position with professional precision, forming rapid hand seals. Ninjutsu, earlobe manipulation technique, twisted shield. His 2 peculiar giant earlobes extended like living appendages, twisted and intertwined with supernatural flexibility, instantly forming an incredibly tough braided shield directly beneath Yamato's descending weapon. Simultaneously, pitch-black armament haki wrapped around the organic barrier like protective armor. Bang! Yamato's monstrous strength strike slammed with tremendous force into the improvised earlobe shield. The terrifying impact force transmitted through Fukurokuju's earlobes to his entire body, and the reinforced floor beneath his feet shattered like thin ice under impossible pressure. Ah! Blood spilled from Fukurokuju's mouth as he collapsed helplessly, his body disappearing into the crater his impact had created. Only a dark, smoking hole remained at the scene of their clash. Damn it all! How can she possibly be so overwhelmingly strong? Kurozumi Orochi stared at the destruction before him, swallowing hard as cold sweat formed beads across his trembling forehead. Fukurokuju served as captain of his elite Anawabanshu and represented his most capable subordinate. Even he couldn't withstand a single strike from this girl. Quick, quick, quick! All of you must attack this shogun's enemies immediately. Kurozumi Orochi shrieked in pure terror at the surrounding samurai and ninjas. Seeing their obvious hesitation, he frantically sweetened the deal. Anyone who can capture Kaido's daughter alive will be rewarded with 500 gold pieces. The enormous bounty ignited flames of pure greed in every warrior's heart. The samurai and ninjas who had been intimidated by Yamato's overwhelming presence suddenly found their eyes gleaming with visions of golden wealth. After all, the girl before them appeared to be only in her teens or early 20s. With so many experienced fighters present, there was absolutely no reason they couldn't emerge victorious. Brothers, wealth and glory await us today. Charge forward. Under the heavy rewards motivation, the crowd surged like a burst dam, wielding various weapons and frantically rushing toward Yamato with desperate determination. Bring it on, all of you. Yamato's excitement reached fever pitch as she directly gripped her kanabo and boldly charged into the approaching mob. Battle. Pure exhilaration. Watching the chaotic battlefield unfolding below, Kai shook his head with secret amusement. A bunch of unfortunate fools who had never experienced the wider world's harsh realities. While 500 gold represented an enormous sum for Wano Country's oppressed citizens, who could maintain an entire week's sustenance with just 5 silver pieces, using it to place a bounty on Yamato's head was laughably inadequate. That was equivalent to trying to sell premium goods at clearance prices. After observing for several moments and confirming that Yamato was completely immersed in glorious combat, her kanabo crackling with haki lightning as she sent opponents flying with each devastating swing, Kai ceased paying close attention and turned his focus toward another interesting development. Kiyoshiro, the guard leader supposedly trusted by Kurozumi Orochi, was currently restraining his own group of samurai from joining the chaotic fight. How interesting. Attempting to reap benefits from others' conflict. Too bad for you. Kurozumi Orochi is indeed a fat clam waiting for slaughter, but Yamato represents the skilled fisherman wielding the sharp blade. Kai sneered with cold calculation. Time for him to exercise his own combat muscles as well. The massive divine dragon descended upon Orochi Castle with earth-shaking impact, transforming seamlessly into a 5-meter-tall dragon humanoid, his battle-hungry eyes firmly locked onto Kiyoshiro's position. Kiyoshiro, who had been carefully observing both Kai's and Yamato's movements, suddenly felt his instincts screaming danger. His hair stood on end as he instinctively gripped his long sword's hilt with white knuckles. At this critical moment, only his cold weapon could provide any semblance of security. Kyoshironiki, what's wrong with you? The samurai members of Kiyoshiro's family also noticed their leader's obviously abnormal behavior with growing concern. He's also worth 500 gold pieces, isn't he? A purple-haired, powerfully built man reached confidently for his sword hilt, a cruel smile playing across his lips. Kyoshironiki, watch me take this monster's head and present it proudly to the shogun. Yuji, stop immediately. Kiyoshiro called out desperately to halt him, but his warning came far too late. Yuji's figure flashed forward like a vengeful ghost, appearing directly before Kai with supernatural speed. Seeing Kai remaining completely motionless, Yuji's savage grin widened with predatory satisfaction, already too terrified to move. Don't worry at all. This master will grant you a mercifully quick death. Single sword style. Ei. Clang. The brilliant sword flash met Kai's exposed skin with the distinctive sound of metal striking impossibly hard metal. Kai looked down at the faint white mark slowly fading on his chest and released undisguised laughter that echoed across the battlefield. Can't Kurozumi Orochi even guarantee his guards receive proper nutrition? A mocking smile played across his lips as he spread both arms wide, deliberately exposing his muscular torso to the samurai's incredulous view. You just attempted to take my head. If you believe you can accomplish it, please proceed. Ha 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 ha. What complete and utter humiliation. Yuji's face flushed bright red with embarrassment and rage. Not bothering to process his surprise at Kai's incredible defensive capabilities, he immediately gripped his sword hilt with both hands and swung his katana in desperate afterimages. Clang, clang, clang. The crisp sounds of striking steel seemed to form a beautiful, if futile, symphony of failure. Kai provided encouraging commentary as if cheering on a struggling student. Too slow, far too slow. Faster, you need to be faster. Slashing attacks without armament Haki proved nothing more than scratching an itch on his transformed hide. Why, is it completely useless? Yuji, whose hands had gone completely numb from violent recoil, was forced to stop his assault, staring in absolute disbelief at the utterly unharmed Kai. Already out of tricks. Kai feigned disappointed surprise. Then this demonstration ends here. Dragon Claw. White light emanated from the razor-sharp claws adorning Kai's transformed palm, then he swung downward with lightning speed and devastating intent. Not good. Kiyoshiro's pupils contracted to pinpoints. Unable to conceal his true strength any longer, he flashed forward to position himself protectively in front of Yuji, drawing and swinging his blade in one perfectly fluid motion. Clang. Dragon Claw and forged steel clashed with a deafeningly sharp explosion that shook the castle's foundations. Such tremendous raw strength. Kiyoshiro frowned with genuine concern, struggling to resist as the reinforced floor beneath his feet developed spreading cracks under the immense pressure. You managed to block it. Kai expressed no surprise at this development. 10 years in the future, Denjiro wielding twin swords could briefly match pace with Roronoa Zoro in direct combat. Kiyoshiro forced his features into a diplomatically humble smile. Perhaps we could discuss this situation. But Kai's smile took on a distinctly dangerous quality. Block this next technique first, then we'll discuss future possibilities. Dragon Pulse. Kai launched his zero startup attack without any warning whatsoever. The dazzling shockwave struck Kiyoshiro with pinpoint accuracy. Bang, bang, bang. Unable to withstand the tremendous kinetic force, Kiyoshiro was blasted backward by the overwhelming impact, shooting through the air and smashing through countless interior rooms in a cascade of destruction. Yamato, who was fighting with pure enthusiasm in the distance, caught sight of this spectacular scene and immediately puffed up her cheeks in indignant anger like an adorable but furious puppy, annoying Kai. We agreed before departing that I would handle everything myself. Please forgive me, Yamato. Next time I promise to restrain myself. Kai responded with an unrepentantly cheeky smile that showed no real remorse. He simply couldn't help his itchy hands when presented with such an interesting opponent, could he? However, this battlefield would indeed have to be left entirely to Yamato's capable hands now. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 12. Battle against Kurozumi Orochi. Kurozumi Orochi had fled with remarkable speed, cleanly and decisively, without the slightest hesitation. Kai found himself with no choice but to pursue the cowardly ruler. After all, today's primary objective was to eliminate Kurozumi Orochi completely. If the Serpentine Shogun didn't die, no matter how many samurai Kai and Yamato slaughtered, their entire mission would amount to nothing. Kai followed the direction of Kurozumi Orochi's hasty retreat, chasing through several winding corridors in the maze-like interior of Orochi Castle. But he was finally forced to stop at a complex crossroads that branched in multiple directions. A miscalculation on my part. I should have learned proper observation Haki before coming here. Kai examined the spider web of interconnected passages sprawling before him, scratching his head with obvious frustration. He appeared to be completely lost in this architectural labyrinth. Clatter. Suddenly, the crisp sound of ceramic shattering echoed from a nearby corner. Kai turned and walked purposefully toward the source of the disturbance. After sliding open an exquisitely crafted lattice door, he discovered a young woman cowering in the shadowed corner, trembling while clutching the broken remains of an ornate flower vase. The girl possessed breathtaking beauty and was dressed in the elaborate silks of a high-class courtesan. Her lovely long hair shimmered with an emerald hue that caught the filtered light. Obviously, the noise he'd heard was caused by her accidentally kicking over the valuable vase in her panic. Upon witnessing Kai in his intimidating dragon humanoid form, the girl trembled even more violently, hastily lowering her head and not daring to meet his gaze again. Kai considered his approach carefully and attempted to make his voice sound as gentle as possible. I'm not a dangerous person. I came here to end Wano Country's suffering and provide the people with genuine hope for a new life. I'm currently pursuing Kurozumi Orochi. Do you happen to know which direction he fled? Pursuing Kurozumi Orochi. Upon hearing this declaration, the girl's eyes instantly brightened with hope but then dimmed again with the weight of harsh reality. There were still 10 long years remaining until her mother's prophecy would be fulfilled. The warrior standing before her was destined to return empty-handed from this endeavor. But she couldn't bear to watch Kai throw away his life in pointless sacrifice, so she whispered urgently, "You should escape quickly while you still can. You cannot possibly defeat the shogun." Behind the shogun stands Guardian King Kaido himself, protecting his interests. Kai responded with complete directness, "I was sent here by Kaido personally. So this is merely one faction of villains attacking another." The girl's budding favorable impression of Kai immediately evaporated like morning mist. "Judging by your current situation, Kurozumi Orochi must have exploited you terribly. Such a tragedy. How many innocent people throughout Wano Country share your suffering?" Kai adopted an expression of deep compassion and concern. "I came here specifically to protect vulnerable people like yourself from Kurozumi Orochi's systematic persecution, which is precisely why I persuaded Kaido to eliminate that corrupt ruler." As he spoke with apparent sincerity, Kai even managed to produce a few convincing crocodile tears. "Is that truly the case?" A flash of cautious emotion appeared in the girl's expressive eyes as she studied Kai more intently. But then her gaze fell once more, weighted with dejection. The beast pirate's oppression of Wano Country won't simply cease with this change. Replacing the shogun is merely changing the soup while keeping the same bitter medicine. She privately feared the new shogun might prove even worse than Kurozumi Orochi. At least Kurozumi Orochi had been feeding off Wano Country's people for so many years that his appetite had become somewhat predictable and manageable. With a completely new shogun, the cycle of exploitation would begin fresh with renewed vigor. "You're absolutely wrong about that. I won't permit such atrocities to continue." Kai extended his transformed hand toward the girl and spoke with solemn conviction, "Please trust me. Under the new shogun's enlightened leadership, you and all of Wano's people will definitely live far better lives." Just at that moment, several rays of golden sunlight streamed through the nearby window, illuminating Kai as if draping him in a sacred, almost divine cloak. The girl stared in wonder at this striking figure, suddenly feeling an unexpected surge of courage rising in her heart. Almost without conscious thought, she reached out and grasped the hand Kai offered. Even though the prophesied day of liberation had not yet arrived, even though the beast pirates still maintained iron control over this suffering country, the girl found herself willing to believe that this mysterious man before her could help Wano Country's people escape their impoverished existence ahead of the predicted schedule. Naturally, Kai felt completely confident about delivering on this promise. Although historical factors played a role, Kurozumi Orochi's brutally exploitative ruling methods were primitive and inefficient. The cost of maintaining control through pure oppression had grown prohibitively expensive. Modern sustainable exploitation represented the far more profitable path forward. "My lord, please follow me closely. The shogun, no, I should say Kurozumi Orochi, prefers to remain in the main hall during times of crisis." Once when he was heavily intoxicated, he unconsciously revealed that location was the safest place in all of Orochi Castle. The girl took the lead while Kai followed closely behind her graceful steps. "I'm called Kai. And you? What should I call you?" "This humble one is named Komurasaki, Lord Kai." "Indeed, it's you. The Kazuki family's hidden princess, Kazuki Hiyori." Kai nodded with inner recognition and understanding. He had found her unusual composure during their conversation rather strange initially. Komurasaki possessed a worldliness and maturity that seemed beyond her apparent station, as if she had witnessed far more than a simple courtesan should. An ordinary entertainer wouldn't be able to maintain such calm upon seeing his hybrid transformation. Simply not fainting from terror would be remarkable enough. The two figures disappeared into the shadowy depths of the winding corridor. In a concealed corner behind them, a bloodied figure slowly emerged from his hiding place. Kiyoshiro watched their departure with mounting worry, but his hands gripped the stone wall tightly, preventing him from making any sound that might give away his position. What he had feared most had finally come to pass. He had used the opportunity of being violently blasted away from the earlier fight to leave the main battlefield, hoping to return and locate Komurasaki so he could escort her safely away from this increasingly dangerous place. He hadn't expected to arrive one crucial step too late. Lord Odin, Denjiro has proven incompetent and failed to protect the princess as sworn. Kiyoshiro blamed himself bitterly, gritting his teeth in frustration, but still resolved to follow at a safe distance. On the other side of the castle, Kai knew with certainty that he had finally come to the right location. Before even approaching the main hall's vicinity, he could already hear Kurozumi Orochi's panicked shouting echoing through the corridors. Fukurokuju, quickly. Summon every samurai in the country immediately. I want to mount a campaign to subjugate Kaido, no, to completely destroy the beast pirates. Ho ho, instead of focusing on escape, you're actively gathering military forces to attack Onigashima directly. Orochi, you absolute fool. You really are stupid beyond all measure. Kai gently pulled Komurasaki behind his protective bulk. This is quite far enough. Find yourself a secure hiding place and focus on keeping safe. Lord Kai. Witnessing Kai actively shield her from danger, Komurasaki couldn't help but feel genuinely moved by his consideration. At this crucial point, she completely believed that Kai was fundamentally different from every other beast pirate she'd encountered. Knowing she would only serve as a burden in the coming confrontation, Komurasaki could only offer silent prayers from her heart. May fortune smile upon your battle. Positioning himself before the main hall's imposing entrance, Kai prepared his assault. Let's announce our arrival properly. Kai opened his jaws wide, and the energy within his transformed body converted into violent flames, frantically gathering and compressing in his throat with increasing intensity. Flamethrower. An orange-red pillar of fire erupted like a molten lava torrent, roaring forth from Kai's mouth with devastating force. Boom. The flames swept forward with irresistible power, instantly blasting through the main hall's reinforced entrance and reducing it to smoldering rubble. Terrifying heat waves rolled across the entire scene like a blazing tsunami of destruction. So hot, so hot. It's burning everything. Kurozumi Orochi's pig-like screams pierced through the roaring flames. Extinguish this fire immediately, you useless fools. Yes, Shogun. The surviving samurai and servants trapped within the hall erupted into complete chaos, frantically attempting to battle the rapidly spreading inferno. Shogun, please exercise caution. Fukurokuju positioned himself protectively in front of Kurozumi Orochi, gazing vigilantly toward the destroyed entrance. Kaido's daughter had demonstrated ice-based abilities earlier, so this devastating fire attack was undoubtedly from that giant dragon they'd witnessed in the sky. Crack. Kai casually brushed away the door debris blocking his path and stepped through the wall of flames, slowly entering the main hall like a vengeful dragon descending upon the mortal world. This level of temperature felt like nothing more than mildly pleasant warmth to his transformed physiology. Kai strode confidently to the center of the Great Hall, his tone remaining as flat as if he were discussing mundane weather. Kurozumi Orochi, could you please do everyone a favor and die? You're standing in my way. You insolent bastard. Who do you think I am? I'm the rightful shogun of Wano Country. Kurozumi Orochi projected outward fierceness while inwardly cowering with fear. As he continued speaking, his confidence visibly crumbled. Stop this assault now, and I can provide you with countless treasures and the most beautiful women in the land. How utterly foolish. Kai sneered with cold contempt. Kill you, and all of these things will belong to me anyway. He was far too impatient for extended negotiations. Extreme speed. The towering dragonman instantly vanished from his position, leaving only a twisted ripple distorting the air where he had stood. Bang! A teeth-grinding, bone-crushing impact echoed through the hall. Kurozumi Orochi's short, rotund body flew through the air like a broken sack struck by tremendous force. The sickening sound of multiple bones cracking accompanied his flight as he slammed with alarming speed into the solid stone wall behind the main hall. The impact proved so devastating that a large crater was smashed directly into the reinforced wall. Kurozumi Orochi collapsed within the crater like a pile of discarded mud, his limbs twisted at unnatural angles, blood flowing freely from his mouth and nose, completely motionless and silent. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 13. Kurozumi Orochi, dead. Sh Shogun Orochi. Fukurokuju's eyes filled with complete disbelief, but he quickly regained his composure and unhesitatingly dropped heavily to his knees in submission. My lord, this humble one, Fukurokuju, wishes to lead the Onawabanshu and our 5,000 subordinate ninjas to swear absolute loyalty to Shogun Yamato. With their leader setting the example of surrender, the remaining samurai and servants scattered throughout the main hall immediately followed suit, all prostrating themselves on the ground and competing to shout their declarations. We pledge our unwavering loyalty to Shogun Yamato. We swear to follow Shogun Yamato to the death. Kai paced slowly through the hall, finally stopping directly in front of the prostrated Fukurokuju. His eyes looked down with calculating intensity, his gaze filled with dangerous playfulness. So then, as Shogun Yamato's supposedly loyal subordinate, do you have any crucial intelligence about Kurozumi Orochi that you need to report to me? He knows about the Orochi Shogun's devil fruit ability. No, that's impossible. That's a secret even Kaido doesn't know. Fukurokuju's body stiffened with tension, unable to determine Kai's true intentions, so he could only probe cautiously. My lord, I know the precise location of Shogun Orochi's treasure vault and am willing to surrender it to you immediately. How unfortunate. Wrong answer, Fukurokuju. Kai gazed down with condescending authority, his tone suddenly turning ice cold. You truly are loyal and devoted, not wasting even an ounce of Kurozumi Orochi's misplaced trust in you. My lord, I don't understand. Fukurokuju raised his head with an expression of perfect innocence and bewilderment. Kai simply shook his head with cold dismissal, far too impatient to interrogate Fukurokuju any further. Until Kurozumi Orochi was genuinely and permanently dead, he would never receive Fukurokuju's authentic loyalty. In the original timeline, Fukurokuju had been a ninja of the Kazuki clan who later betrayed them to serve Kurozumi Orochi. After Kurozumi Orochi was beheaded by Kaido, he turned to serve Kaido instead. Though he appeared to be a servant of three masters, he actually adhered to one unwavering principle: the Onawabenshu must serve whoever currently holds the title of shogun. For this principle, he had even dared to play dangerous games with Kaido himself. Kai no longer paid attention to the prostrated crowd, silently turning around as his gaze locked onto the corpse, lying motionless in the wall crater. He opened his dragon jaws wide, and the surging energy within his body transformed into flames that gathered with increasing intensity. Great Flame Commandment. Boom. A giant flaming character shaped like Da, resembling a brand forged in hell itself, crashed toward Kurozumi Orochi's apparently lifeless corpse. Just as the flames were about to consume the body completely, a miraculous scene unfolded. Ah! I'm burning to death. Mercy. Have mercy. The supposedly dead Kurozumi Orochi suddenly sprang to life like a shrimp doused with boiling oil, frantically leaping up from the crater's bottom. He rolled desperately within the blazing flames, wailing with a voice so shrill it became distorted beyond recognition, "Spare me. I don't want the shogun position anymore. I'll give it all to you. Everything. Just stop the burning." At this moment of life and death, Kurozumi Orochi could no longer maintain his deception and directly activated his devil fruit ability. His short, rotund body rapidly inflated and twisted like a balloon, scales erupting wildly across his skin. Within seconds, a monstrous creature with an eerie grass-green body and 7 serpentine dragon heads materialized. However, his transformation brought no relief. Why won't it extinguish? One of the snake heads released a desperate scream of agony. Kurozumi Orochi discovered with mounting horror that the flames Kai had unleashed clung to his massive Yamato Orochi body like parasitic maggots. No matter how violently he rolled around, the flames simply refused to be extinguished. Roar. Hot. So unbearably hot. Save me. Someone please save me. The 7 snake heads produced successive, incoherent, miserable wails that echoed throughout the hall. Oh. The burn effect successfully triggered. Kai stroked his chin with mild interest, though he quickly lost enthusiasm for the spectacle. Simply put, Kurozumi Orochi's pathetic appearance was too pitiful to witness. The kind-hearted Lord Kai couldn't bear to watch such suffering continue. So he decided to end it mercifully. Air slash. Kai casually waved his dragon claw, and several invisible yet incomparably sharp air blades sliced precisely through the Yamato Orochi's thrashing heads. Thud. 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 The Yamato Orochi's wildly convulsing body suddenly stopped moving, and 7 massive snake heads rolled across the ground in perfect unison. 1, 2, 3, 7. Kai leisurely counted his handiwork, using his dragon claw's fingertip to point at each motionless snake head scattered across the floor as if tallying spoils of war. After confirming the count of 7, he nodded with complete satisfaction, adding the one killed by extreme speed, that makes 8 lives total. Perfect. Exactly right. Kurozumi Orochi was dead, perished without causing even the slightest ripple of consequence. Truly hopeless in your overwhelming stupidity, actually manifesting all 7 heads simultaneously to ensure your death. However, this might represent the first and last good deed you've accomplished in your miserable lifetime, saving me from wasting precious time guarding a corpse. Kai sneered with contempt, turning to address the stunned Fukurokuju. The old king is dead. Time to welcome the new ruler's ascension. Fukurokuju snapped out of his shock at this dramatic turn of events and immediately prostrated himself again. I await your orders, my lord. Excellent. This time your tone carries much more sincerity. Kai nodded with approval, then took a deep breath that caused his chest to rise noticeably. Icy wind. A bitter cold wind rushed from Kai's mouth, sweeping through the entire great hall with arctic intensity. Wherever the frigid wind passed, flames were instantly extinguished as if they had never existed. The scorching air was rapidly cooled to comfortable temperatures, even depositing a thin layer of frost across the stone floor. My lord's divine might is truly awe-inspiring. Fukurokuju buried his head even lower in complete submission and reverence. Kai remained perfectly calm and composed, as if he had just accomplished something utterly insignificant. He waved his dragon claw with casual authority. Come now, follow me to the top floor. It's time to help those samurai and ninjas still fighting for Orochi face the new reality. After all, those warriors were now part of his expanding power base. The group had just emerged from the main hall's destroyed entrance when a familiar voice called out. Lord Kai. A clear voice filled with pure joy rang across the courtyard. Komurasaki, who had been patiently waiting in the shadows of a corner outside the hall, quickly stepped forward with obvious relief. From the moment Kai emerged victorious, Komurasaki understood that Kurozumi Orochi had been defeated, and the oppressive shadow hanging over Wano Country's suffering people was finally about to dissipate. Who goes there? Fukurokuju reacted with impressive speed, instantly embracing his new role and positioning himself protectively in front of Kai. Even though he understood his strength was vastly inferior to Kai's overwhelming power, this was the fundamental meaning of the Anawabanshu's existence. It's perfectly alright. Komurasaki is my friend, Kai said with a warm smile. Fukurokuju stepped back half a pace as ordered, though the wariness in his calculating gaze hadn't completely dissipated. He lowered his voice and dutifully reminded, My lord, this woman is a courtesan who was recently brought into the city by Kiyoshiro to perform. And that Kiyoshiro serves as one of Kurozumi Orochi's most loyal guards. The implication was crystal clear. Komurasaki's loyalty couldn't be guaranteed or trusted. No matter whatsoever. Kai waved his hand with casual dismissal, turning to address Komurasaki directly. I'm about to announce Kurozumi Orochi's death to all the people of the flower capital. Would you like to accompany me for this historic moment? It would be my greatest honor. Komurasaki responded with almost no hesitation. Hidden in the distance, Kiyoshiro sighed endlessly upon witnessing this exchange. After Kai had entered the hall for his confrontation, Kiyoshiro had approached the solitary Komurasaki, originally planning to escort her away from danger immediately. But he couldn't understand what kind of enchantment Kai had cast over her. She had stubbornly insisted on waiting outside the hall for the battle between Kai and Kurozumi Orochi to reach its conclusion. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Chapter 14. Subduing the Samurai and Ninjas. The top floor of Orochi Castle no longer held its former majesty. What remained was a chaotic battlefield scarred by violence and destruction. The walls and pillars bore vicious sword marks and deep cracks like battle wounds. In the center of the devastated space, a prominent ice field stretched across the floor with crystalline beauty. Dozens of ice sculptures stood frozen in various poses throughout the frozen expanse, their expressions captured in lifelike detail at the moment of their defeat. Of the originally dense army of samurai and ninjas, only a handful of fortunate survivors who hadn't been blinded by the promise of 500 gold pieces could still stand and maintain any semblance of combat readiness. They gripped their weapons with white knuckles, but their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Their fearful gazes remained locked on Yamato, who stood in the battlefield's center like an unstoppable war goddess. Hey there. Yamato casually shouldered her massive kanabo, Takaru, while placing her free hand on her hip, complaining with obvious dissatisfaction, why aren't any of you coming to fight me? I'm getting seriously impatient waiting here. Her tone carried the frustrated annoyance of someone denied proper entertainment. There were barely any worthy opponents remaining. Only those few ninja leaders had possessed some interesting techniques, but they had fallen after just a few club swings. The remaining samurai and ninjas exchanged desperate glances, their faces etched with internal struggle and mounting despair. They desperately wanted to flee but feared the brutal purge that Kurozumi Orochi would unleash afterward. Yet staying meant facing that monstrous girl who could instantly freeze people into decorative ice sculptures. Either choice felt like certain death. Just as they wrestled with this impossible decision, steady footsteps echoed from the rear passage. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of approaching footsteps rang out like steady drumbeats, shattering the deathly silence that had settled over the battlefield. Everyone instinctively turned toward the source, witnessing a strikingly handsome man leading Onawabanshu Captain Fukurokuju and a group of surviving samurai as they approached with leisurely confidence. Who is that person? Why is our captain following behind him like a subordinate? The samurai and ninjas murmured among themselves with growing confusion. The moment Yamato spotted who had arrived, her earlier impatience vanished completely from her mind. Kai, look at what I accomplished. Yamato bounced excitedly in place several times, waving her kanabo enthusiastically and pointing toward the ice field and its frozen sculptures. Her tone overflowed with pride and the desire to show off her handiwork. Excellently done, Yamato. Kai approached her side and naturally extended his hand to pat her hair in genuine praise. Hee. Yamato, who moments before had resembled a battlefield demon, released a carefree, almost childish laugh. After acknowledging Yamato's success, Kai turned to face the group of silent samurai and ninjas, calmly clapping his hands twice. Fukurokuju immediately understood the signal. He stepped forward with ceremonial precision, raised high the severed head of Kurozumi Orochi that he had specifically retrieved, and announced loudly, "Kurozumi Orochi has been executed for his crimes. Kneel and surrender immediately. The shogun is actually dead." The samurais and ninjas' initial reaction wasn't grief-stricken fury or passionate vows of vengeance, but rather a profound sigh of collective relief. Thank the heavens above. They finally didn't have to continue fighting the terrifying monster. Let whoever still wanted that cursed 500 gold bounty go and claim it themselves. Clang, clang, clang. Like a cascading chain reaction, the metallic sounds of dropping weapons rose and fell throughout the space, connecting into one continuous symphony of surrender. The samurai and ninjas all dropped to their knees in unison, pressing their foreheads to the cold stone floor while shouting together, "We willingly surrender ourselves." Observing the harmonious scene that had unfolded before him, Kai nodded with complete satisfaction. The overall strategic situation had been definitively settled. The only person dissatisfied with this rapid conclusion was probably Yamato, who still craved more action and combat. Ah, Kai, you're being unfair. I wanted to fight Kurozumi Orochi personally too. Yamato pouted with obvious disappointment. After all, he was Wano Country's shogun. Defeating him in single combat would have felt far more satisfying than crushing these expendable foot soldiers. Hearing her complaint, Kai couldn't help but laugh and shake his head with amusement. Kurozumi Orochi isn't actually a strong fighter by any measure. In genuine combat, he probably wouldn't even match the Ulti siblings' capabilities. Really? Well then, forget about it entirely. Yamato pursed her lips, looking genuinely disappointed by this revelation. After successfully pacifying Yamato's concerns, Kai decided not to delay their mission any further. He accepted Kurozumi Orochi's severed head from Fukurokuju and strode purposefully toward the top floor's expansive balcony, which offered the finest view of the surrounding area. From this elevated vantage point, the entire flower capital spread out below like a detailed map. At this moment, the base of Orochi Castle was packed with countless people pressing together. Nearly half of the flower capital's entire population had been drawn by the earlier dragon sighting, successive explosive sounds, and earth-shaking battle noises that had echoed across the district. Does anyone know what actually happened up there? Someone's definitely causing serious trouble. That's obvious to everyone. The important question is, who exactly is causing this trouble? I heard rumors that Kaido's daughter arrived, claiming she intends to depose Shogun Orochi. Really? If that's true, it would be absolutely wonderful. This development might not actually be good news for us. At least Shogun Orochi is a local ruler. I honestly don't care who it is anymore. I just desperately wish the Shogun would face some real danger. Exactly. My feelings precisely. The citizens discussed the situation among themselves in hushed but excited tones, silently offering prayers that their oppressive ruler wouldn't emerge from this crisis safe and sound. Silence. Kai's voice boomed like thunder from atop Orochi Castle, carrying clearly throughout the entire crowded plaza below. Kurozumi Orochi has committed countless crimes, shown absolutely no remorse, refused to abdicate his position, and even resisted with violent force. He has now been executed for his transgressions. Kai raised Kurozumi Orochi's severed head high above his own and proclaimed loudly for all to witness. As the official representative of Guardian King Kaido, I hereby declare that in exactly 3 days, Wano Country will conduct elections to choose a new shogun from among the various regional daimyo. After delivering his historic announcement, Kai paid no further attention to the boiling clamor and animated discussions erupting below, turning to return inside Orochi Castle. Within the castle's interior, Yamato unfroze those ice sculptures at his subtle signal. These former opponents had little to say for themselves and directly joined the growing surrender army without resistance. Kurozumi Orochi had never possessed the leadership qualities necessary to inspire loyalty unto death. Worth noting, Kiyoshiro also emerged from his hiding place, leading the samurai of the Kiyoshiro family to likewise declare their submission to the new order. Kai had no intention of exposing the man's true identity. A known spy was infinitely more useful than a dead one, after all. Not to mention, he still held Kiyoshiro's greatest weakness firmly in his hands, Komurasaki herself. Kai issued his commands with cold efficiency. Fukurokuju, display Kurozumi Orochi's corpse publicly for 3 full days. Also, publish detailed accounts of his crimes in the newspapers. I'll provide you with the specific content to include later. Yes, Lord Kai. Fukurokuju bowed deeply and acknowledged the order with professional dedication. Kai nodded with slight approval and continued his instructions: clean up and completely repair Orochi Castle. Most importantly, the main hall must be fully prepared for official meetings within 3 days. Also, immediately send notifications to all daimyo throughout Wano Country's regions, informing them to arrive at Orochi Castle in 3 days to participate in electing our new shogun. Yes, Lord Kai. Fukurokuju agreed once again with unwavering commitment. That concludes our immediate business. Kai turned toward Yamato, who appeared bored and was absently playing with the balcony railings, and beckoned to her. Yamato, we should return to base now. Okay. Yamato immediately responded with renewed cheerfulness. Having accomplished their primary goal of eliminating Kurozumi Orochi, Orochi Castle no longer held any attraction for her restless spirit. She couldn't wait to return to the familiar surroundings of Onigashima. Before departing, Kai's calculating gaze fell upon Komurasaki, and he offered her a warm smile. Komurasaki, please come with me as well. Stop working as a courtesan and become my personal maid instead. Both Komurasaki and the hidden Kiyoshiro felt their expressions freeze simultaneously at this unexpected development. Kai's invitation had caught them completely off guard. Komurasaki's original plan involved working her way up from a low-level courtesan to eventually become Wano Country's most prestigious Oran. This strategy would allow her to not only gather crucial intelligence from the upper social echelons but also extract ill-gotten wealth from corrupt merchants and redistribute it to the desperate poor. It was a perfect plan that killed 2 birds with 1 stone. But now everything had changed dramatically. What should she do in this impossible situation? If she accepted Kai's offer, not only would all her careful preparations be wasted, but she would have little opportunity to accomplish meaningful work on Onigashima. But if she refused his generous proposal, both roles involved serving powerful people. As a common-born girl, ignoring a friendly and influential figure who had shown her genuine kindness, while instead insisting on remaining a courtesan. What would that make her? Someone addicted to the profession itself. Check out my Patreon for more chapters. www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 15. A Fateful Encounter. Komurasaki ultimately chose to follow Kai back to Onigashima. Staying by Lord Kai's side, I might be able to gather crucial intelligence about the beast pirates' secrets and operations, she rationalized silently to herself. After returning to the fortress island, Kai arranged for his experienced maid Minami to properly train Komurasaki in her new duties, then accompanied Yamato to the banquet hall to meet with Kaido. Upon learning of Kurozumi Orochi's death, Kaido didn't display even the slightest smile of satisfaction. Quite the opposite, in fact. Wororororo. Orochi. You got yourself killed just like that. Kaido wept profusely, grabbing his massive sake gourd and continuously pouring alcohol down his throat in tribute to his fallen business partner. After crying dramatically for several minutes, he suddenly flew into an explosive rage. This is all because you were pathetically weak. King, seated at a lower position, showed no surprise whatsoever at this emotional display. Kaido-san was exactly this type of loyal and righteous man who mourned his allies while simultaneously cursing their failures. After completing his grieving ritual and bidding final farewell to Kurozumi Orochi, Kaido wiped away his tears and instantly switched to a beaming smile. Wororororo. Yamato, Kai, you two performed admirably. Yamato laughed with obvious pride. Of course we did. Kai and I make an absolutely invincible combination. Kai's eyes widened as he stared at Yamato in genuine shock and horror. Don't drag me down into your death wish fantasies. The last person who proclaimed himself invincible had already stopped thinking entirely and was currently drifting through the vacuum of outer space. After completing their mission debriefing, Kai considered his next steps and felt he should outline his future plans to Kaido. A competent subordinate should report frequently and maintain regular communication with leadership. Kaido-san, regarding Wano Country's future development strategy. Doesn't matter to me. Kaido displayed minimal interest, as if this entire topic held less appeal than the sake gourd clutched in his massive hands. I don't particularly care what happens to that country. You can mess around however you want with their politics. But remember one thing. As he spoke, Kaido's towering frame leaned forward menacingly with a dangerous smile. The monthly quota of weapons delivered to me, not a single piece can go missing. What a callously indifferent statement about countless human lives. Truly worthy of you, Kaido-san. Kai blinked impassively, though internally he felt quite pleased. Who wouldn't appreciate a leader willing to delegate complete authority? After bidding farewell to Kaido, Kai and Yamato headed toward Onagashima's residential district. West of the pleasure quarters managed by Black Maria sprawled the exclusive housing complex where high-ranking executives lived in relative luxury. Both Kai and Yamato possessed their own floors of private accommodations within the compound. Yamato, how about taking a relaxing hot spring bath? Spotting the Beast Bath House sign in the distance, Kai suddenly remembered he hadn't experienced the local hot springs specialty since arriving at Onagashima. Sure. I haven't bathed in hot springs for ages either. Yamato nodded enthusiastically with obvious excitement. The two changed direction toward the bathhouse, but before long they heard a distinctly sleazy male voice echoing ahead. Muhahaha. Would this beautiful young lady like to attend my exclusive personal concert? The corpulent queen blocked a lovely girl's path like an oversized meatball, his mechanical arm gleaming in the afternoon light. Nearby, a concerned maid was attempting to dissuade Queen from his pursuit. Lord Queen, Komurasaki serves as Lord Kai's personal maid. Perhaps you should seek his permission first. Kai. That green rookie. I was already serving Big Brother Kaido when he was still wearing diapers. Queen's expression radiated complete disdain and dismissal. Since when did it become his turn to boss this master around? Komurasaki lowered her head with obvious discomfort. Whether considering appearance or personal feelings, she definitely preferred Kai's company over Queen's advances. But directly refusing such a high-ranking officer might cause serious problems for Kai, and she worried about the potential consequences. She understood Queen's status and formidable strength all too well. 10 years ago, when Komurasaki was still known as Kazuki Hiyori, she had witnessed him ruthlessly battling against her family's loyal samurai. Just as Komurasaki found herself caught in an impossible dilemma, a familiar gentle voice spoke up behind them. Queensin, please don't harass my maid, if you would. Queen turned his head sharply, and upon seeing Kai's approach, immediately flew into an explosive rage. Kai, you little brat. Want to practice some combat? Before Kai could formulate any response, Yamato eagerly jumped forward, rolling up her sleeves with obvious anticipation. Excellent. Count me in two for this fight. No. Both Kai and Queen shouted in perfect unison. You idiot. Kai bonked Yamato firmly on the head with obvious exasperation. This is a personal battle between Queen and myself over the treatment of my maid. Why are you trying to interfere? Queen secretly breathed a massive sigh of relief. Others might underestimate Yamato's true strength, but how could he remain ignorant? While he felt confident about defeating either Yamato or Kai in individual combat, if they combined their forces, that would create an entirely different and far more dangerous scenario. Kai held all-star rank, after all. Queen had observed that spectacular battle between him and Jack from beginning to end. Later, at the Beast Duel Arena. This specialized venue had been constructed specifically for pirates to resolve personal grudges through formal combat. Within the arena's boundaries, Kai and Queen stood facing each other with obvious tension crackling between them. Komurasaki and Minami clasped their hands together anxiously, their worried gazes locked firmly on Kai's figure. Yamato sat cross-legged nearby with one hand supporting her chin, eagerly anticipating the upcoming battle with obvious excitement. A crowd of enthusiastic pirate crew members who had rushed over upon hearing news of the duel held various Queen support items, preparing to cheer loudly for their favored combatant. A designated pirate referee holding red flags in both hands positioned himself at the arena's edge and shouted with official authority, Lord Kai versus Lord Queen. 3, 2, 1. Begin. Both crimson flags dropped simultaneously. Battle erupted with explosive intensity. You bastard. Next time, put this master's name first in the announcement. Queen vented his verbal dissatisfaction while his massive body fainted dramatically. His right mechanical arm suddenly burst into bright flames as he charged with devastating force toward Kai's position. Winch Queen. The mechanical claw, now scalding hot from concentrated flames, struck directly toward Kai's exposed face with lethal intent. Having carefully studied Kai's previous battle against Jack, Queen understood completely that his opponent's devil fruit represented a top-tier mythical zone variety. He absolutely had to seize the initiative. Facing this fierce claw attack, Kai neither dodged nor attempted evasion, simply crossing both arms to protect his face from the incoming strike. Queen felt delighted upon witnessing this defensive stance and immediately roared with anticipation. Die, you arrogant bastard who dares compete with me for Komurasaki's affections. Bang! An explosive impact echoed across the arena. Kai, struck squarely by the scalding mechanical claw, was sent flying backward through the air, carving a deep furrow dozens of meters long in the packed earth. Whoa! Lord Queen is absolutely amazing. Yeah, Lord Queen is so incredibly cool. Queen's devoted fan club immediately erupted in thunderous cheers upon witnessing their idol land such a devastating hit. OWOO. Queen faced his adoring fans with theatrical flair, waving both arms in acknowledgement while not forgetting to blow an exaggerated kiss toward Komurasaki's location. Hiss. Kai rose slowly from the ground, rubbing his aching arms before tearing away his smoldering sleeves with deliberate calm. Let's go again. Kai clenched both fists and charged directly toward Queen with renewed determination. Still refusing to transform into his hybrid form. Queen frowned with growing confusion, unable to determine Kai's tactical intentions. Glancing left and right, he detected no immediate danger that would require evasive maneuvers. While he hesitated in analysis, Kai had already closed the distance between them. Normal punch. Kai's deceptively plain and simple fist struck Queen's prominent abdomen with surprising force. The tremendous impact caused Queen's considerable belly to ripple like ocean waves, while the punch's wind pressure sent his golden ponytail dancing wildly through the air. Ow! That actually hurts. Queen's eyes bulged comically as he shouted with exaggerated pain. But the very next second, Queen's mouth curved into a mocking smile of supreme confidence. Just kidding around, kid. The black coloration coating his abdomen slowly faded away to reveal unmarked skin. When it came to mastering armament hockey techniques, he had achieved complete proficiency. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 3 comments 0 vote. Chapter 16. Mastering Armament Hockey. Queen was no fool by any measure. As the self-proclaimed smartest man in the Beast Pirates, how could he suddenly challenge a fellow all-star without thorough preparation? Kai's hockey training sessions with King were hardly secret knowledge within their organization. Kai, you little brat. Now let this master test your hockey learning progress. Muhahaha. Queen, supremely confident in his assured victory, laughed with maniacal glee. Do all the Beast Pirates suffer from this compulsive need to play teacher? Is this what people meant by, when superiors have certain preferences, subordinates will take them to extremes? Kai found himself speechless at this recurring pattern. But honestly, Kai harbored exactly these same intentions. Queen represented a rare opportunity as a large, mobile punching bag with limited offensive capabilities while possessing exceptional durability. Otherwise, he would have already transformed into Rayquaza's hybrid form to end this quickly. Kai clenched his fists tightly, King's rigorous teachings echoing clearly in his mind. Fists without conviction are weak and powerless. The same principle applies to hockey. Kai naturally understood the fundamental essence of hockey perfectly. Aura, killing intent, fighting spirit, when manipulating these invisible emotional forces, willpower itself could become a devastating weapon. But understanding remained far easier than actual implementation. In this particular regard, people like Yamato actually possessed significant natural advantages. However, I absolutely can't allow myself to fall too far behind. Consecutive normal punches. Kai's arms became blurred afterimages as his fists descended upon Queen like a torrential downpour. Feeling the relatively painless impacts against his protected abdomen, Queen finally realized why Kai was deliberately avoiding his devil fruit abilities. You bastard. You're genuinely using me as a whetstone for training. Queen flew into an explosive rage. His massive body suddenly swelled and transformed with frightening speed. Within the blink of an eye, a fierce-looking orange brachiosaurus humanoid appeared in his place. You enjoy throwing punches so much. Then this master will gladly play with you to your heart's content. Brachio Bomber. Queen's mechanical right arm, along with the mechanical claw mounted on his head, suddenly contracted to store tremendous power, then unleashed at air-tearing velocity toward Kai in a frenzied barrage. Bang! 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 The dull sounds of flesh meeting flesh connected into one continuous symphony of violence. After enduring just a few brutal rounds, Kai's knuckles began splitting and bleeding profusely. Simultaneously, Queen leveraged his superior observation haki to precisely exploit gaps in Kai's defensive guard, slamming his enhanced fists directly into vulnerable points. Soon, Kai was being systematically dismantled by Queen's armament haki-covered strikes. So much pain. It felt as though every bone in his body was crying out in agony. Blood trickled steadily from the corner of Kai's mouth, his consciousness beginning to blur under the relentless heavy blows. The tense muscles in his arms trembled violently beyond his control. His punching motions grew increasingly sluggish and uncoordinated, driven almost purely by desperate instinct. Lord Kai. Komurasaki couldn't restrain her emotional outcry, crystal tears sliding down her cheeks. She had never imagined that Kai would endure such punishment for her sake, especially when they had only just met. Lord Kai, do I truly hold such an important position in your heart? Setting aside Komurasaki's internal emotional turmoil, Minami frantically sought assistance from Yamato. Miss Yamato, please save Lord Kai. He's about to be beaten to death by Lord Queen. Yamato appeared genuinely confused by this request. What foolish things are you saying? Kai is obviously performing just fine. What? Are my eyes malfunctioning? Minami stared at Kai continuously spitting blood on the battlefield, then at Yamato's serious expression, falling into complete self-doubt. But Yamato's assessment proved absolutely correct. On the battlefield itself, Queen, who seemed to possess an overwhelming advantage, wore a gravely concerned expression, while Kai, who kept absorbing devastating damage, displayed increasingly bright and determined eyes. Almost there. Just a little more. Kai forced himself to maintain focus, desperately squeezing every ounce of his body's hidden potential. He could sense a mysterious power gradually surging from deep within his core. Queen, feeling the progressively heavier impacts from his opponent's strikes, unconsciously entertained a troubling thought. Damn it all. There can't really be a genius who achieves a breakthrough mid-battle, right? No, no, no. That's impossible. I'm a scientist, and I must believe in scientific principles. Queen quickly shook his head vigorously, attempting to banish this absurd notion from his mind. But observing Kai, who seemed to grow more energetic the more punishment he absorbed, Queen realized he couldn't continue this dangerous stalemate, or the one facing embarrassment might become himself. I'm completely done playing these games with you. Queen suddenly withdrew his mechanical fists, his massive body leaping backward to create substantial distance between them. Sparking Queen. His eyes suddenly blazed with dangerous crimson light. The next second, countless explosive laser beams erupted from his enhanced optics, precisely blanketing the entire area where Kai was positioned. Boom. 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 Deafening explosion waves swept across the entire venue as smoke and debris shot skyward in towering columns. But Queen still wasn't satisfied with this level of destruction. Brilliant light gradually emerged from both his mechanical prosthetic claws and his gaping mouth. This pathetic farce ends now. Henry Queen. Two concentrated laser beams shot boldly toward Kai's location with devastating intent. Rumble. A massive mushroom cloud rose majestically into the sky. Kai-sama. Komurasaki felt struck as if by lightning, intense panic gripping her heart so tightly she could barely draw breath. Lord Queen. Queen's devoted fan club erupted in renewed celebration, behaving as though Queen had already secured a decisive victory in the duel. They completely failed to notice that their beloved idol was watching the depths of the smoke and debris with grave concern. Yamato maintained the same serious observation. The next instant, a brilliant smile bloomed across Yamato's face, while Queen's expression turned distinctly sour. Well then, it really was a matter of conviction after all. Kai's voice, calm yet clearly tinged with joy, rang out clearly from within the dissipating smoke. An invisible wave of energy quietly radiated from his transformed body. Just moments before, when he had been struck repeatedly by Queen and was teetering on the edge of unconsciousness, he suddenly remembered his sacred vow. In this lifetime, he would always be the one left standing. How could he possibly fall to a mere Queen? With this unshakable conviction firmly in place, he finally sensed the power contained within his body for the first time with crystal clarity. Armament Haki. Thank you sincerely for your guidance, Queen-sensei. Kai no longer suppressed his true power, transforming seamlessly into his dragon humanoid form with a calm smile. His eyes blazed with pure fighting spirit. I'll use my last remaining stamina to demonstrate my learning results. The fundamental power of Haki was mobilized by his will once again. Although he still couldn't coat his body's surface with visible black armor at this stage, it was already more than sufficient. Under Haki's protective effect, Kai's entire physique became increasingly hard and resilient. Extreme speed. The towering Dragonman instantly vanished from his position, leaving only a twisted ripple distorting the air where he had stood. What? I can't track him at all. Queen felt greatly alarmed, frantically activating his observation Haki in desperate attempts to capture Kai's blurred movements. But his efforts proved completely futile. Bang! A dull, heart-stopping, thunderous impact echoed across the arena. Kai's figure materialized as if through teleportation, striking Queen with devastating head-on force. Ultimate speed had generated ultimate destructive impact. WUAH. Queen's eyes instantly bulged comically, the force even shattering his ridiculous sunglasses into fragments. Even though he had preemptively covered himself with concentrated armament Haki, he was still struck with such tremendous force that he briefly lost consciousness. His entire massive body flew backward dozens of meters through the air. The dumbfounded pirate referee, witnessing the instantly transformed battle situation, snapped back to awareness and raised his hand while shouting, "Lord Queen is out of bounds." In this official duel, Lord Kai emerges victorious. No. Queen's heartbroken fan club wailed as though attending a funeral service. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth creators' thoughts. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 17. Hot Springs and the Shogun's Election. The Beast Bath House stood as one of Onagashima's most luxurious amenities, particularly the all-star exclusive hot spring pool where Kai now found himself in complete relaxation. A soft towel draped over his head while his arms stretched comfortably along the pool's edge. The warm spring water enveloped his entire body like countless gentle hands providing a therapeutic massage. Absolutely refreshing. Kai released a long, satisfied breath as the fatigue and soreness from his earlier battle with Queen dissipated completely in this moment of pure bliss. Minami, apply a bit more pressure. I can handle it perfectly. Yes, Lord Kai. Minami, wearing a light silk bathrobe, increased the intensity of her shoulder massage with practiced skill. Komurasaki, dressed in an identically styled bathrobe, carefully balanced a massive tray filled with delicious food and refreshing drinks as she gracefully waded through the warm water. The wet fabric clung perfectly to Komurasaki's elegant form, accentuating her graceful and refined figure with artistic precision. Thank you for your artistic vision, Oda-sensei. None of the beauties in One Piece possess anything less than stunning figures. Kai openly admired Komurasaki's approach, his eyes filled with genuine appreciation for such natural beauty. He certainly hadn't come to the pirate world to live like a monk. Komurasaki felt slightly nervous under Kai's appreciative gaze, a delicate blush creeping across her lovely face. But her body responded honestly, subtly adjusting her posture to better accommodate his line of sight. Lord Kai, please enjoy this meal. Komurasaki delicately picked up a piece of premium tuna sushi with her right hand while supporting it gracefully from below with her left, bringing it directly to Kai's lips. Absolutely delicious. Kai consumed it in one smooth bite, nodding with obvious satisfaction. While savoring the sushi, he also playfully sucked on Komurasaki's snow-white fingertips. Ah, Lord Kai, you're being quite mischievous. Komurasaki released a sweet, melodic hum. That warm sensation made her heart flutter with involuntary excitement. Observing Komurasaki's charming expression, Kai pulled her slender waist closer and laughed with pure joy. Ha 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 ha. A man's highest pursuits were nothing more than wielding power over the world when awake and resting on a beauty's lap when intoxicated. Just as this romantic pair was sharing their intimate moment, an unexpected interruption arrived with perfect timing. Kai, here I come. A white figure descended from above in the dramatic style of an Olympic diving team member. Splash! An enormous amount of water erupted upward, providing all 3 people an impromptu shower. Yamato, you absolute idiot. Look what you did to my food. Kai wiped water from his face and cursed with exasperation. And although this is technically my exclusive hot spring pool, since I'm currently here, it functions as a men's bath, understand? What's the big problem? Minami and Komurasaki are here too, aren't they? Yamato emerged from the water and approached Kai's side with an unrepentant grin. They're completely different. They're my personal maids. It would be perfectly fine even if we shared sleeping quarters. Kai chuckled with obvious mischief. Both Komurasaki and Minami bashfully lowered their heads in embarrassment. I can do that too. We're close friends, after all. Yamato waved her hand carelessly, immediately creating massive ripples throughout the hot spring pool. Ah, this situation, forget it entirely. Kai didn't have time to provide Yamato with a comprehensive biology lesson at this moment. Anyway, Yamato wasn't like those complicated identity groups from other places. Now she had returned to embracing her identity as a daughter, just with some concepts that hadn't been properly corrected yet. No matter. He possessed plenty of time to guide her properly. Speaking of physical compatibility, just in terms of body proportions, Yamato, who stood 30 centimeters taller than him, was more naturally suited to his height. Like the 1.7-meter Komurasaki, standing by his side made her appear almost too delicate and dependent. However, this didn't seem to matter much in the pirate world's diverse landscape. Back in the day, the Pirate King's right-hand man Rayleigh could handle relationships with female giants, so now Kai managing smaller companions wasn't problematic either. Not to mention, this world even featured races like the Tontata tribe, proving that size differences rarely presented insurmountable obstacles. Although the carefully prepared food was completely ruined because of Yamato's dramatic entrance, the three beauties before him provided an equally satisfying feast for the eyes. Even Minami, whose beauty was slightly less striking than Yamato and Komurasaki's, could still be considered elegantly attractive. After enjoying their budget version of romantic water play, Kai's group concluded their hot spring excursion. Before departing, Kai specifically kept Minami and Komurasaki behind to instill some proper feminine behavioral concepts in Yamato. While Kai was luxuriating in the good life, news of Kurozumi Orochi's demise created tremendous waves throughout Wano Country. Extra. Extra. Shogun Orochi has fallen. Raggedly dressed newsboys with patched clothing ran barefoot through the streets and alleys of Wano Country, vigorously waving freshly printed newspapers. They couldn't help but work with such enthusiasm. When major news broke, newspapers sold at their absolute best. Whether they'd eat substantial meals or thin gruel over the coming days depended entirely on this crucial moment. Sure enough, news of Orochi's death immediately captured every citizen's attention. Give me a copy right now. A well-dressed wealthy merchant anxiously threw down a silver coin. Without waiting for change, he snatched the newspaper and scanned it with desperate speed. On the newspaper's front page, Orochi's severed head was displayed prominently. Orochi is genuinely dead. That worthless waste. There goes my 100 gold bribe. Some people gnashed their teeth in frustration, while others wept with overwhelming joy. Heaven has eyes. That bastard Orochi finally received his well-deserved comeuppance. Son, you can rest in peace now. A plainly dressed elderly couple embraced and cried together. For a brief time, paper became the most precious commodity in Wano Country. In Kuri's Mount Atama region, at the Atama thieves' hidden stronghold, urgent news was arriving. Boss, absolutely massive news. A man dressed as a masterless Ronin waved the newspaper frantically and ran toward his leader. Shutenmaru, distinguished by his fluffy pink curly hair, scolded with authority, Kawachi, what have I consistently taught you? Remain calm when situations develop. This represents the cultivation a qualified samurai should maintain. Boss, but this is. Just as Kawachi was about to explain the situation, Shutenmaru interrupted firmly, take deep breaths and calm yourself down first. Kawachi had no choice but to comply with his leader's instructions. After several moments, the now calmed Kawachi handed the newspaper to Shutenmaru and provided a concise report. The beast pirates and Kurozumi Orochi experienced internal conflict. Orochi was executed by Kaido's daughter. What? Kurozumi Orochi is actually dead. Shutenmaru felt dumbfounded, suddenly standing upright. For a moment, he wondered if Lady Toki's prophesied day had finally arrived. Kawachi, why didn't you communicate such monumentally important news immediately? Boss, I attempted to. Kawachi appeared genuinely aggrieved. Forget it completely. Exercise more caution in the future. Shutenmaru waved his hand dismissively and snatched the newspaper from Kawachi, browsing through its contents. In the newspaper, under Kai's careful direction, Yamato naturally embodied everything great, glorious, and morally correct, while Kurozumi Orochi was portrayed as the living embodiment of every negative aspect in the world. Crimes of assault, pillaging, murder, and arson were all attributed to his rule. Most importantly, this wasn't Kai fabricating accusations, but actual crimes Kurozumi Orochi had genuinely committed. As his trusted confidant, Fukurokuju understood these transgressions better than anyone. Otherwise, Kai couldn't have compiled Kurozumi Orochi's extensive criminal record so efficiently. Along with this character assassination, Kaido's public image also received some strategic beautification. Claims such as how Lord Guardian King established weapon factories to increase Wano Country's foreign trade income, that the pollution and worker exploitation were all Kurozumi Orochi's arbitrary decisions, and that the Guardian King himself had attempted to dissuade him, but Orochi as shogun simply refused to listen. In summary, the Guardian King's intentions had been virtuous, it was simply that Orochi had executed policies incorrectly. Complete and utter nonsense. Shutenmaru felt furious at these lies. Others might remain ignorant, but didn't he understand Kaido's true nature perfectly? Expecting him to genuinely care for ordinary people was like expecting miraculous food to fall from the sky. After his initial rage subsided, this formerly hot-tempered man was forced to sit back down. So what if he knew the absolute truth? Unable to defeat Kaido in combat, everything remained empty rhetoric. All he could accomplish was caring for his loyal brothers and accumulating strength while waiting for the prophesied day to finally arrive. What proved most frightening wasn't even the beast pirate's overwhelming military might. Shutenmaru keenly noticed a previously unknown name, Kai. In the newspaper, Kai appeared as merely a tool assisting Yamato in eliminating Kurozumi Orochi, but Shutenmaru, who had dealt with the beast pirates for many years, sensed something deeply unsettling. During the previous 10 years, the beast pirates had never attempted to improve their public image. Was this coincidence or deliberate strategy? If the latter proved true, that would be absolutely terrifying. It would mean the beast pirates were no longer temporary occupiers but intended to establish permanent roots in Wano Country. The difficulty of eventual elimination would prove vastly different. If this trend continued, in 10 years, would the deceived people of Wano Country still recognize the Kazuki clan's legitimacy? Kawachi stepped forward at the appropriate moment to offer comfort. Boss, regardless of everything else, Kurozumi Orochi is dead. That's always positive news. You're absolutely right. Let's hold a celebration banquet tonight. Shutenmaru forced a smile onto his features. As a leader, he couldn't display dejection to his followers. 3 days later, at Orochi Castle, now rightfully called Shogun Castle, the situation had changed dramatically. After 3 days of non-stop cleaning and comprehensive repair work, Shogun Castle had largely recovered its former grandeur. Before noon arrived, daimyo from various regions had already assembled with their samurai and loyal retainers. With the selection of Wano Country's new shogun at stake, they couldn't afford anything less than complete proactivity. Originally, Wano Country's shogun position had always been held exclusively by the Kazuki clan, but Kurozumi Orochi's cunning schemes had shattered this ancient tradition. Now, with the Kazuki clan eliminated and the Kurozumi clan lacking any successors, the shogun position should naturally be elected from among the 5 regional daimyo. For this opportunity, the 5 daimyo had spent these 3 days forming strategic alliances, making frequent political moves, and frantically campaigning while simultaneously badmouthing rival daimyo. They also understood perfectly that Wano Country's true ruler remained the beast pirates and guardian King Kaido himself. But so what? As long as they could achieve the shogun position, what was wrong with serving as Kaido's loyal subordinates? In the main hall, Yamato had been forced by Kai to assume the primary seat. Yamato, who naturally loved moving around freely, felt extremely uncomfortable, as though ants were crawling across her entire body. Kai, I'm so tired of this. Yamato pouted with obvious frustration. Smack. Kai slapped Yamato's restless foot and spoke sternly, don't fidget around. Just endure through this crucial period. The nearby Onawabanshu members focused their gazes downward, attempting to minimize their presence to avoid disturbing their master's interaction. Fukurokuju entered the hall and knelt on one knee respectfully. Lord Kai, Lord Yamato, all regional daimyo have arrived as requested. Excellent. Allow them entry. Kai spoke with calm authority, showing no embarrassment about issuing orders on Yamato's behalf. Fukurokuju expressed no surprise and departed to carry out the directive. If Guardian King Kaido was the power behind Wano Country, then Lord Kai was clearly the strategist behind Shogun Yamato. Soon, Fukurokuju led a distinguished group into the hall. The 5 leading daimyo immediately focused on Yamato in the main seat and the subservient Onawabanshu positioned behind her upon entering. Why was a pirate occupying the primary seat? Why did those Onawabanshu members appear so completely subservient? The 5 daimyo immediately developed terrible premonitions. Everyone, please be seated comfortably. Kai observed the daimyo's expressions and sneered internally. Today represented a carefully orchestrated political trap. After the 5 daimyo had taken their designated positions, Kai straightforwardly introduced Yamato. As the saying goes, a country cannot exist without a ruler for a single day, a family cannot function without a master for a day. Today we've invited you all here to elect Wano's new shogun. The candidate nominated by Guardian King Kaido is Miss Yamato. Please cast your votes. Yamato followed Kai's careful instructions, maintaining a serious expression and sitting perfectly straight, attempting to project proper dignity. Observing Yamato's obviously unnatural posture, Daimyo Suzugo tentatively inquired, "Are there other candidates for consideration?" Kai smiled with deceptive calm. "No. There exists only one candidate the beast pirates are willing to recognize, Miss Yamato." The 5 daimyo's expressions changed simultaneously. Such arrogance. They weren't even attempting to disguise their manipulation. At minimum, they could have presented a token candidate for appearance's sake. The hot-tempered Shimotsuki daimyo immediately slammed the table and rose angrily. "With only one candidate, how do you expect us to make any choice? Do we possess any real options?" "Of course you do." Kai's expression remained perfectly calm. "You can choose to refuse participation." "I refuse." Before Shimotsuki daimyo could complete his declaration, Kibi daimyo, who maintained a positive relationship with him, quickly covered his mouth and smiled awkwardly. "His mind isn't functioning properly today. He misspoke just now. Poor mental health requires immediate treatment." Kai turned to address Fukurokuju with a pleasant smile. "I believe we should grant Shimotsuki daimyo medical leave. As for his daimyo position, let's transfer it to him." Kai casually pointed toward a samurai official positioned behind Shimotsuki daimyo, who displayed an obviously fawning expression. "Thank you for this incredible promotion, Lord Kai. I am Nomura Ichiro, and I swear absolute loyalty unto death to Shogun Yamato." The samurai wasn't stunned by this sudden windfall. He immediately stepped forward to pledge loyalty to Yamato, fearing that any hesitation might cause the daimyo position to vanish. The samurai who had accompanied the various daimyo felt envious, jealous, and resentful. Becoming a daimyo was so simple. Why didn't Lord Kai select me instead? Shimotsuki daimyo's eyes became bloodshot with rage. His daimyo position had cost him 3,000 gold in bribes to Kurozumi Orochi. In such a brief moment, his position had simply disappeared. Kibi daimyo recognized the dangerous situation and quickly whispered urgently, "Abandon this resistance. You cannot fight against overwhelming power. I'm only helping you this once. If you want to cause more trouble, I won't intervene again." Speaking softly, Kibi daimyo gestured with his eyes for Shimotsuki to notice the samurai guards positioned behind him. Apart from the original samurai of Shogun Castle, even the guards they had personally brought were now gazing eagerly at Shimotsuki daimyo. They were hoping he would lose control again so they could overthrow their superior and seek their own advancement. Shimotsuki daimyo's heated emotions instantly cooled. Without anyone else restraining him, he obediently stepped back from his position. Kai felt no surprise. The daimyo with genuine backbone had either perished or fled during the upheaval 10 years ago. What real courage could those who served as daimyo under Kurozumi Orochi's regime possibly possess? After Shimotsuki daimyo's outburst, the remaining 4 daimyo instantly understood the situation with crystal clarity. Kai and Yamato had already secured control over the Onawabanshu and patrol forces, Wano Country's 2 most powerful military organizations. No matter how they struggled, resistance would prove completely futile. "We pledge our complete loyalty to Shogun Yamato." The daimyo respectfully prostrated themselves before their new lord, offering their absolute submission and loyalty. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 18. Wano Country Development Plan. The replacement of the Shimotsuki daimyo barely created a ripple of concern throughout the kingdom. Compared to Wano Country's revolutionary new policies, this political shift represented the most insignificant of minor matters. 1 day off per week with 12-hour work shifts. This work system, which would be considered harsh labor exploitation in Kai's previous life, had a dimensionally crushing positive effect compared to Wano Country's existing slave factory conditions. After the news was officially announced, people throughout Wano Country erupted in joyous celebration. Shogun Yamato had arrived, bringing genuine hope for clearer skies ahead. Not only that, but Kai also announced a comprehensive series of rent reduction and disaster relief policies designed to win the people's hearts and minds. After all, the vast wealth Kurozumi Orochi had systematically scraped from the oppressed populace was sufficient for all of Wano Country to survive without working for 3 entire years. The promulgation of these groundbreaking new policies secured popular support within just a few days of implementation. Yamato quickly solidified her position as the legitimate shogun. In the flower capital, the transformation was immediately visible. Shogun Yamato, please try some wagashi sweets my family just finished making. Shogun Yamato, these are freshly picked pears from our orchard. Shogun Yamato. Enthusiastic citizens surrounded Yamato from every direction, all offering their heartfelt tokens of appreciation and gratitude. Yamato accepted every gift with a genuine smile and obvious warmth. Did you capture good shots of this? Kai turned to address the reporter positioned nearby and instructed with strategic precision, make sure to properly publicize Shogun Yamato's closeness to the people and their overwhelming love for her leadership. Such wonderful scenes of military-civilian harmony couldn't be allowed to go to waste. The reporter nodded repeatedly with obvious enthusiasm. Lord Kai, I'll return immediately and write the article right now. It'll be published as tomorrow's newspaper headline story. Shortly after the reporter departed, Yamato, having finished graciously dealing with the grateful citizens, approached with obvious excitement. Kai, I want to visit Kuri as well. What would you accomplish in Kuri? Land reclamation and development. I heard from the citizens that it's the poorest region in all of Wano Country, where people actually starve to death every year. Yamato spoke as if stating the most obvious fact in the world. I'm Wano Country's shogun. I definitely need to visit the most difficult areas and help them develop properly. Fukurokuju, who had been following at a respectful distance, looked at Yamato with genuine surprise. He understood that Shogun Yamato was different from Shogun Orochi, but he hadn't expected her to be this dramatically different. They were practically polar opposites in every conceivable way. How had someone like Kaido raised such a compassionate daughter? However, this development represented truly the best possible news for Wano Country's future. Fukurokuju's eyes showed more genuine recognition and respect. Kai considered the proposal carefully and felt this wasn't a problematic idea, so he agreed, allowing Yamato to travel to Kuri alone. With her overwhelming strength, there was currently nothing in Wano Country that could pose any genuine threat to her safety. Yamato departed with obvious excitement and anticipation. Kai issued further instructions. Fukurokuju, send 2 reporters to follow Yamato and document everything she accomplishes. Fukurokuju understood the strategic implications completely. After delegating all the tedious governmental affairs to Fukurokuju's capable management, Kai prepared to return to Onigashima. He still had an enormous pile of important matters to arrange. The administrative mess left behind by Kurozumi Orochi's regime was truly catastrophic. Back at Onigashima, in Queen's laboratory. What? You want me to research methods for reducing factory pollution? Queen was so shocked he nearly dropped the delicate test tube clutched in his mechanical hand. Kid, we're the beast pirates. We're pirates. What self-respecting pirates would be so bored as to research ways to benefit ordinary people? Kai spoke with complete calm. Not only that, but I also need you to research agricultural machinery. Things like advanced seeders and harvesters. Of course, while reducing pollution from weapons factories, we also need to dramatically improve efficiency. He wanted to achieve preliminary industrialization in Wano Country. Even basic industrialization would bring tremendous advances in productivity. Simply put, even the worst form of capitalism was more advanced than feudalism. Queen was so furious his facial fat trembled with indignation. What do you take me for? I'm the mighty Queen the Plague. I research biochemical weapons and laser weapons. Weapons that killed fewer than double digits of people at once didn't even qualify for his research consideration. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Queen flatly refused with obvious disgust. Besides, I don't think our relationship is good enough for you to ask me for such ridiculous favors. He still remembered that day when he had awakened from unconsciousness and rushed back to the duel arena wanting a rematch, only to discover that Kai and his group had already fled. At that time, unable to properly vent his accumulated anger, he had been extremely frustrated. Queensin, why are you being so unnecessarily narrow-minded? Kai gently persuaded with diplomatic charm, Developing Wano Country isn't just my personal business. It's about our beast pirates' century-long strategic plans. Queen huffed and glared with obvious hostility, refusing again. Kid, don't try to fool me with fancy words. Impossible means impossible. Wait. Queen seemed to think of something and smiled with strange calculation. If you're willing to give me Komurasaki, I might consider it. You're not planning to take payment without doing any actual work, are you? Kai rolled his eyes with obvious skepticism. Did he look like a complete idiot? Queen's smile froze completely. How had this kid guessed his scheme so easily? Sigh. I suppose it really is too technically difficult. Kai sighed with feigned regret and disappointment. Come to think of it, treating pollution and researching new machinery are such complex tasks that they can probably only be accomplished by someone like Vegapunk, who possesses the world's greatest scientific brain. Kid, don't try to use Vegapunk to provoke me. I don't fall for such obvious tricks. Queen snorted coldly. Although he constantly bragged about being the world's #1 scientist, he was secretly somewhat convinced by Vegapunk's superior abilities. The more knowledgeable one became, the more one could understand Vegapunk's truly terrifying capabilities. Kai looked surprised and widened his eyes with apparent innocence. I wasn't attempting that at all. I can't even locate Vegapunk anywhere. But I heard there's a top scientist named Vinsmoke Judge who previously worked with Vegapunk. I'm sure he could accomplish it. Since you can't handle it, Queenson, I'll go ask Kingson to help contact him instead. Ha! I can't do it. Queen shot upright, his obsession with Judge completely clouding his rational judgment. Judge, that pathetic waste. Give him 2 years, and he still wouldn't figure out those projects. I, Queen, am the world's top scientist. I only need 3 months to produce complete results. He had taken the bait perfectly. When dealing with this type of scientist, you had to apply competitive pressure. Kai's mouth curved into a slight smile of satisfaction. Then I'll look forward to your results, Queenson. With that declaration, he turned and left immediately, not giving Queen time to reconsider or react. Wait, you manipulative kid. Queen watched Kai's rapidly departing figure. His mind cooled down, and his intelligence reclaimed the high ground, but it was far too late. Damn it all. Queen was so angry his entire body of fat trembled with rage. On the other side, after leaving Queen's laboratory, Kai changed direction and headed to the banquet hall instead. There was a predictable NPC who always appeared there, Kaido. Sure enough, when Kai entered the banquet hall, Kaido was enjoying a dancer's performance while drinking heavily. Oh, it's Kai. Kaido, bleary-eyed from excessive alcohol consumption, took a while to properly recognize the man before him. Burp. Kaido released a comfortable wine belch before asking, weren't you playing political house in Wano Country? What are you doing here? Kai provided a comprehensive report on what he had just discussed with Queen. Oh, do whatever you want. Kaido waved his massive hand carelessly. I'll say it again for absolute clarity, I only want weapons. Having a leader like Kaido really saved enormous amounts of worry. Kai departed feeling completely satisfied with the arrangement. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 1 comments 0 vote. Chapter 19. Bringing Kazuki Sukiyaki down from the mountain. 3 months later, in Kuri's Amagasa village, the transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Among the rolling clouds above, an emerald-green giant dragon soared and tumbled through the sky with graceful power. Rain prayer. Under the divine might of the sky god's authority, dark clouds billowed dramatically while lightning flashed and thunder roared across the heavens. Within moments, a gentle but steady drizzle began falling across the parched landscape. The precious rainwater moistened the drought-stricken fields below, and the previously wilted rice seedlings stretched themselves toward the sky, suddenly bursting with renewed vitality. Thank you for this blessed rain, Lord Kai. Thank you, Shogun Yamato. A grateful group of villagers dressed in simple farming clothes pressed their palms together and bowed with endless appreciation. With Lord Kai, who could summon wind and rain at will, and with Shogun Yamato, who had reduced taxes and lowered interest rates, they would surely enjoy a truly prosperous year ahead. Yamato, wearing a traditional bamboo hat to shield herself from the sun, stood with both hands confidently on her hips, smiling warmly as she observed this heartening scene. Not far away, a peculiar old man wearing a distinctive long-nosed mask with large wings attached to his back watched with an expression of complex emotions. What the Kazuki family had been unable to provide for the people of Wano Country in their time of rule, favorable weather for successful crops, was now being realized by a group of pirates. This ironic reality made Kazuki Sukiyaki, disguised as the craftsman Tenguyama Hitetsu, feel deeply conflicted emotions. Since Kurozumi Orochi's dramatic downfall and Yamato's rise to legitimate power, the daily lives of Wano Country's citizens had improved visibly and dramatically. Fields that had been polluted by industrial factories were being restored using advanced medicines developed by the Beast Pirates scientists. Factory craftsmen now enjoyed proper rest time to actually experience life beyond endless labor. Even these humble farmers now possessed agricultural machinery generously provided by the Beast Pirates organization. The Beast Pirates even offered low-interest loans for farmers to purchase modern equipment. And then there was this remarkable girl standing before him. As Kaido's daughter and Wano Country's rightful shogun, she not only displayed no aristocratic airs whatsoever but also personally assisted the people with their daily work. One person's labor contribution was equivalent to an entire village's combined effort. Wherever she traveled, the people welcomed her with completely genuine warmth and affection. That vibrant state of vigorous vitality and healthy competition was unfolding right before his eyes. If this positive trend continued indefinitely, was there really any legitimate need for the Kazuki clan to return to power? Kazuki Sukiyaki fell into deep, troubled contemplation. Also lost in serious thought was Shutenmaru on the distant Mount Atama. He stood atop the mountain's peak, gazing at the distant dark clouds with obvious longing, remaining speechless for an extended period. Boss, this marks the 5th time in 3 months. Lord Kai is truly remarkable in his abilities, Samurai Kawachi blurted out with obvious admiration. Indeed. Shutenmaru spoke slowly and deliberately, notably not correcting Kawachi's respectful language toward Kai, even though theoretically they remained enemies. Kawachi's family resided in Kuri, specifically in Amagasa village. Having received someone's genuine kindness and assistance, how could he speak disrespectfully of his benefactor? Kawachi pressed his lips together nervously and spoke with obvious difficulty. Boss, we lost 2 more brothers yesterday. This represented the 2nd time this month alone. Since the new shogun's rule had stabilized and proven beneficial, quite a few of their members had become restless, wanting to return home to resume farming or become legitimate workers. Not everyone was willing to continue living a dangerous life of constantly licking blood from knife edges. Especially their Atama thieves organization. Many had originally been driven to financial ruin by Kurozumi Orochi's oppressive policies and forced to take refuge in the mountains. Faced with this challenging situation, Shutenmaru demonstrated extraordinary magnanimity and understanding. You can leave freely. Whatever possessions you brought when you first joined, take the same things when you depart. Don't take any additional wealth, as that belongs to everyone collectively. I'll provide you with travel money and provisions for your journey. Just like that, Shutenmaru had sent off batch after batch of loyal brothers. The once mighty Atama thieves, who had commanded up to 280 subordinates at their absolute peak, had now lost over 50 valuable members, and the frequency of departures was steadily increasing. Kawachi, aren't you considering leaving as well? Shutenmaru asked with genuine curiosity. Aren't your mother and brother living in Amagasa village? From the current situation, the beast pirates don't seem to care about reformed bandits seeking new lives. Boss, I want to stay with you, Kawachi scratched his head with obvious bashfulness. Besides, if I return home right now, that's just another mouth to feed. The grain hasn't been harvested yet. Ha 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 ha. You loyal kid. Shutenmaru laughed heartily and turned to depart from the overlook. Come along. Accompany me for sword practice. Back in Amagasa village, after carefully calculating the optimal timing and rainfall amounts, Kai dispersed the rain clouds to reveal the warming sun. Kai, look at this. This is the new bamboo hat everyone crafted for me. Does it look good? Yamato bounced over with the infectious enthusiasm of a child showing off a treasured new toy. Kai accepted the bamboo hat and discovered it was not only polished perfectly smooth without any rough burrs, but someone had also skillfully drawn a charming chibi-style portrait of Okuchinomikami's beast form on its surface. No wonder Yamato treasured it so deeply. It suits you perfectly. Right. I think so too. The girl beamed with pure happiness. These past 3 months had been the most genuinely joyful period of her entire life. Dreams she had once believed were completely unreachable were drawing closer and closer to reality, and there were more and more genuine smiles visible on the faces of Wano Country's people. Yamato felt that listening to Kai's advice back then had been absolutely the right decision. After chatting pleasantly with Yamato for several moments, Kai walked purposefully toward Tenguyama Hitetsu. Tenguyama Hitetsuzan, I've observed that you craft farming tools with exceptional skill. Are you interested in working at our weapons factory as a technical director? Due to the pressing need for land reclamation projects, Tenguyama Hitetsu, who had once made his living forging legendary swords, had directly switched to crafting practical farming tools. And indeed, as the renowned master swordsmith who had forged the Sandai Kidetsu and several great swords, Tenguyama Hitetsu's farming tools earned widespread praise. Because of Yamato's charitable dedication to helping Amagasa village reclaim wasteland, Tenguyama Hitetsu had even custom-made a complete set of premium farming tools specifically for her use. Yamato treasured them deeply, even applying armament haki when wielding them for work. Kai privately suspected that Yamato might eventually forge a complete set of permanently blackened farming tools through constant haki application. But returning to the immediate matter, Tenguyama Hitetsu naturally refused to leave Amagasa village. Having finally escaped from Kurozumi Orochi's secret imprisonment and successfully hidden his true identity here, he had no desire to become involved in political conflicts. Thank you for your generous regard, Lord Kai. This old man is quite advanced in years. I can still manage crafting farming tools, but I fear I would prove inadequate for the demanding work at a weapons factory. But Kai smiled with meaningful calculation. Being a technical director is actually quite simple. You would just need to guide the craftsmen daily, help improve their skills, maintain quality control, and occasionally participate in weapon development according to specific requirements. It's as straightforward as being Wano Country's shogun. Why? Why did he specifically use the shogun as his example? Does he know my true identity? Tenguyama Hitetsu's body trembled involuntarily, but he attempted to keep his voice steady and calm. You jest, my lord. The shogun must handle countless complex affairs daily. How could such responsibilities be considered simple? Not at all. That's completely wrong. Yamato appeared to offer testimony, counting on her fingers with obvious sincerity. Being shogun, I just need to stamp official documents when Fukurokuju brings them. It's farming, digging irrigation channels, and building dams that actually consume my time and energy. Tenguyama Hitetsu found himself completely speechless. You think everyone is like you, genuinely happy to serve as a puppet shogun. Kai smiled with obvious satisfaction. So, how are you considering my offer? Tenguyama Hitetsu understood with crystal clarity that he possessed no room to refuse. Since you extend such a sincere invitation, this old man will serve faithfully to the best of his abilities. Excellent. Kai nodded with complete satisfaction. As for how much he actually needed Tenguyama Hitetsu's particular talents, that remained debatable. With Wano Country's skilled craftsmen providing support, the Beast Pirate's weapon quality had earned an excellent reputation throughout the seas. One fewer Tenguyama Hitetsu wouldn't make a significant difference. But he simply wanted to witness what expressions those samurai loyal to the Kazuki clan would display when they learned their former lord was working directly for the Beast Pirates. Just imagining their reactions was genuinely exciting. Before departing, having satisfied his small bit of calculated mischief, Kai offered a kind reminder. As long as you work diligently and faithfully, the Beast Pirates won't concern themselves with minor historical conflicts. This represents Kaido-san's official attitude as well. With that diplomatic warning, he departed immediately with Yamato, completely ignoring Tenguyama Hitetsu's stunned reaction. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL. Meowth Creators Thoughts. 0 comments 0 vote. Chapter 20. Setting Sail. In Onagashima's grand banquet hall, the atmosphere carried an undercurrent of tension despite the usual revelry. Our weapons trade middleman has been eliminated. King announced this troubling news with his characteristic calm demeanor, showing no emotion despite the severity of the situation. Who was responsible? Kai's brow furrowed with concern. The Beast Pirates' weapons trade represented practically a semi-open secret throughout the New World. Their middlemen weren't individuals that ordinary people would dare to cross, let alone eliminate. Take a look at this. King tossed over an elegantly crafted invitation. Kai caught it smoothly and opened the document, discovering it was actually a brazen self-recommendation letter. In the correspondence, the writer was completely blunt about killing their middleman yet contained absolutely no words of apology or remorse. Between every line, the message expressed that the Beast Pirates possessed poor judgment in selecting representatives, that the middleman had been pathetically weak, and that such an incident would never have occurred if the writer had been chosen instead. Kai found himself genuinely amused by this person's incredible stupidity. The author clearly didn't comprehend what Kaido's name meant in this world. Looking at the signature, he read, Joker. Ah, so it's Doflamingo. Everything made perfect sense now. Kai smiled with complete understanding of the situation. King provided additional intelligence. This organization calls itself the Don Quixote family. Their leader is the heavenly Yaksha, Don Quixote Doflamingo, with a current bounty of 340 million berries. He was previously active in North Blue operations. After arriving in the New World, through some undisclosed means, he secured a position as one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Not long ago, he seized control of the kingdom of Dressrosa, probably intending to establish permanent roots in the New World. Kai nodded thoughtfully and closed the audacious self-recommendation letter. What does Kaido-san think about this situation? Kaido squinted his eyes and sneered with cold calculation. Kai, go test that clown's actual worth for me personally. He could overlook his business partner's death and could even ignore Doflamingo's blatant offense, but the prerequisite was that Doflamingo possessed strength worthy of his respect. Understood completely. I'll depart tomorrow morning. Kai acknowledged with a respectful nod. King added important details. Your exclusive flagship was completed last week. Here are the subordinates you'll be taking with you tomorrow. With that explanation, he tossed over a detailed personnel list. The pirates listed whose names weren't even worth King recording naturally weren't worth mentioning, but the few prominent leaders caught his attention immediately. Jack, Ulti, page 1. Kai appeared puzzled by the selection. A mere heavenly Yaksha shouldn't require all of us to mobilize together, should it? He could understand Yamato's absence from the list. Kaido probably wasn't completely at ease with her leaving yet. Doflamingo alone naturally wouldn't warrant such a response. King explained the strategic reasoning. We maintain a long-term devil fruit trading channel. When you set sail, it coincides with our twice-yearly settlement, so handle both matters together while you're traveling. He then provided detailed information about the trading schedule, location, and contact person. Kai suddenly understood why King had specifically included the Ulti siblings in this mission. The so-called trading channel was none other than the 7 warlord Hanafuda himself. He hadn't expected Kaido to be quite so considerate, specifically creating an opportunity for them to enjoy a family reunion. As for Jack, he was genuinely just an additional crew member. The following day found them at Mogura port in southern Wano Country. Although Wano Country officially maintained its isolation policy, it wasn't without channels for external contact and trade. Compared to having carp pull ships up the treacherous waterfall against powerful currents, this Mogura port route proved significantly safer. This port had been converted from a massive natural cavern beneath Wano Country. Ships could travel up and down via mechanical elevator systems, while the cavern itself connected to the open sea beyond the towering walls. Here, Kai observed a large pirate ship stretching over 100 meters in length. Both sides of the impressive hull were lined with dense gun ports, and the bow featured an embedded sculpture based on Kai's Rayquaza form. Truly exemplifies the beast pirate's distinctive style. Kai nodded with secret approval. Just as Jack possessed his own exclusive flagship in the original timeline, Kai, who had replaced Jack as an all-star, naturally deserved his own vessel as well. Lord Kai, please provide a name for this ship. Speed, distinguished by her bow-carrying equipment and distinctive black and white hair, spoke with respectful deference. She was a Tobarapo specifically assigned to Kai by King, with responsibility for managing the pirate crew members aboard the ship. Kai answered without any hesitation, let's call it the Rayquaza. Damn it. Bastard Kai gets his own ship after just 3 months of service. The accompanying Ulti was filled with obvious resentment. Little Pepe, we need to get our own ship too. Page 1 side with resigned acceptance. Big sister, Kai Aniki holds all-star rank. Ulti remained supremely confident, so what? Working together, we'll overthrow him sooner or later. Hey, could you please not discuss such rebellious plans directly in front of me next time? Kai felt black lines forming on his forehead. He was beginning to regret agreeing to bring these troublesome siblings along on this mission. Jack proved superior as a traveling companion, quiet and peaceful. Kai, I challenge you to combat. Jack, who had been standing with arms crossed attempting to project expert confidence, suddenly spoke up. His eyes blazed with obvious desire for the impressive Rayquaza. Someday, he would possess a ship exactly like this, complete with a mammoth sculpture adorning the bow. Let's discuss it after we set sail properly. Kai held his forehead with obvious helplessness. So he was commanding a ship filled entirely with problem children. Thank goodness he had successfully pacified Yamato, who had desperately wanted to join this expedition. Otherwise, the coming days would prove absolutely unbearable. After Kai's group of 4 boarded successfully, following Speed's authoritative commands, the sailors already positioned at their stations began adding fuel to the engine room. The large ship slowly began its journey, traveling along the artificial waterway. The waterway spanned half of Wano Country's territory and proved frighteningly long. It wasn't until most of the day had passed that light suddenly appeared ahead in what had been pitch darkness, accompanied by the thunderous sound of a massive waterfall reaching their ears. Soon, the enormous waterfall came into full view. Whoosh! The large ship burst dramatically out of the waterfall, and the brilliant azure sea spread magnificently before Kai and his companions. This represented an ocean completely different from Wano Country's enclosed inland sea. Simply observing it felt refreshing and genuinely invigorating. But emerging from the waterfall didn't guarantee their safety. Wano Country's coastal waters remained filled with dangerous turbulent whirlpools. Fortunately, the Rayquaza was constructed with exceptional durability, and the ship was crewed by experienced sailors. They encountered no significant difficulties and safely departed the treacherous coastal waters. After successfully putting out to sea, Page 1 impatiently retrieved his fishing rod and began positioning himself on the ship's rail to fish. His skilled baiting, casting, and reeling techniques demonstrated that he was an experienced member of the Air Force, that notorious group of fishermen who never actually catch anything. Of course, Page 1's consistent lack of success was largely related to Ulti's presence. Not every fishing enthusiast could successfully catch fish with someone who constantly caused disruptions nearby. On the main deck, Kai and Jack stood facing each other in preparation for combat. They had tacitly agreed not to use weapons or devil fruit abilities, as it would prove problematic if they damaged the ship. Normal punch. As Kai's armament hockey-covered fist struck toward Jack with precision, he tilted his neck smoothly to dodge Jack's incoming counterattack. After 3 months of relentless training, Kai had successfully mastered armament hockey's coating, hardening, and emission techniques, could utilize observation hockey at will, and could release targeted bursts of Conqueror's hockey. Only those higher-level techniques remained completely beyond Kai's current grasp. Kaido had proven remarkably generous with his instruction. Whether covering internal destruction, future sight, or advanced Conqueror's coating, he taught everything without reservation, truly living up to his reputation as Teacher Kaido. But even though he understood the fundamental principles, not knowing remained not knowing. Advanced hockey techniques cannot be mastered through instruction alone. Only by constantly battling powerful opponents and achieving complete mental and physical transformation can one grasp that crucial flash of insight. Teacher Kaido had emphasized this point repeatedly. This represented one of the primary reasons Kai had agreed to regular battles with Jack. Even though Jack didn't apply tremendous pressure during their fights, accumulated over time, these experiences would become valuable parts of his combat foundation. Check out my Patreon for more chapters www.patreon.com/MeowthTL.